Happy Monday, August the 7th to you. It is the birthday of a guy named Eric Brauchler. That's my brother. Happy birthday, Eric. I know you're not going to hear this because in Minnesota, you have lost track of what your brother's doing. But happy birthday to you, man. If I do the math, you're 50, which is ridiculous. I cannot believe this little blonde-haired kid has blossomed into, well, whoever you are. But anyway, I mean, you're fantastic human being, biggest heart in the world, much like Dad's. I wish I had that, but somehow he's got it and I don't have it. Happy birthday, Eric Brauchler. This is going to be one of those days, folks, that look a lot like the last, because I'm going to read this to you here. This is the weather. 80 degrees high, lightning bolts shooting out of the clouds, but do yourselves a favor. If you're sitting next to someone, you can hold their hand, brace for this, please. For the rest of the pictogram generated by our friends at Denver 7, there are no more lightning bolts coming out of the clouds for the rest of the foreseeable future. And by the foreseeable future, I mean up through Sunday, it's pictures of the sun and a cloud. And then on Wednesday, just the sun. And then a bunch of cloud and the sun, but no lightning bolts after this afternoon storms. We've had a ton of them. Actually, they're not that bad. I kind of like seeing the lightning flickering out there behind the clouds. 80 today, 86 tomorrow, 88 on Wednesday, 90 on Thursday. Yep, it's all going up. And then it kind of hovers around 89 to 89 throughout the rest of that period of time through Sunday. If you can believe the weather prognosticators, we do up to a point. But honestly, their track record is something that makes them a little bit suspect. Big weekend on a lot of different levels. As you know, the first segment of the 6 o'clock hour, especially on a Monday, we get caught up on everything that we've done. Billy was on the radio a lot. Billy was on the radio for like
forever. It was 15 hours yesterday.
Dude.
Yeah. Now, again, I voice track it, so it wasn't like 15 total sitting there. But that was about 7-8 hours.
But still, that's ridiculous on a Sunday.
Yeah.
But you get paid triple time.
I get no. No. And it started at 4 a.m. That is very early.
Oh, dude.
Yeah. So I was actually up a little bit earlier than I am for here. Yeah, it was. But they keep paying me. So
as long as they keep the money flowing.
Yeah, it was good. Although, oh crap, I'm gonna have to show you this off the air. Oh.
A rash?
No. Something interesting popped up in my AFN feed that I'm gonna have to show you.
And tell folks what AFN is. So
that's Armed Forces Network. One of the things that I do is I'm on two of their feeds, and so it goes all over the planet for this particular format. And they have awful writers. They have stuff that we're supposed to read, and it's so horrible.
And you have to read it as is. You can't make it better.
Well, you can take a little bit of license, but you can't necessarily change it up that much. You can kind of reword things a little bit, but the gist of it still has to be there. And oddly enough, the military is much more picky about how much we ad-lib during them.
I'm sure.
They're very, very picky.
Are the folks that are doing the writing actual military members? Are these people part of the public affairs office?
Yeah, that's my guess, because we have to check things through them, and it comes through them, and there's like 7 layers of bureaucracy and everything else that goes through it, and the stuff is written very poorly. It is the most beige written, liners and things that you ever get. So while I'm talking a lot about people right now traveling through Europe and checking out europe.stripes.com, making sure that when you're separating from the military, what you need to do to go visit your TAP office. Talking about that a lot. I guess it's also tick season in Europe right now, especially in southern Germany.
It's tick season.
Yes.
Check your buddy.
It is. I actually have to say that. If you go outside, you got to do a tick check. So
funny.
Yeah, it's really funny, the stuff that I've got to do. Right now, we're doing things about watch out for the rules over in the Asian Pacific Rim as well. That when you're driving, the rules are different on the road, and so I'm doing that one. But then there's another one that
you can't get employment over there either, because it's a rim job. You can't do that. I won't do it.
The other one is, I guess someone has been complaining about what they're seeing on the base cable system. And not base meaning basic cable, the cable that is piped into the bases.
Yeah.
And so now, at least once an hour, I'm reading this, and I've got a different one that I have to show you off the air, but I'm reading this announcement that is basically that AFN does not run any news networks 24-hour streaming, streaming programs. If you are seeing CNN, Fox News, One News, or Newsmax on your cable, your base cable system, it is not AFN. It is the responsibility of your base cable operator. Talk to them. Stop complaining to us is basically what it is. And then I got a bigger one that is definitely, I'm going to have to show you that one. So
Yeah.
Yeah.
I imagine it's a bigger story is what you mean by that.
It's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
So
You
did a lot
also,
of that yesterday.
you also had a brush with Barbie.
Yes, but the girls in my family went to see Barbie on Saturday night. They were going
What was
at
their feedback?
8:30. They really liked it. They thought it was very funny.
The movie's gone up over $1 billion globally.
billion.
I mean,
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, that whole woke protest worked out well, huh?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Go woke, get
that's
rich
great.
on that one.
They thought it was really interesting. My wife thought it was an interesting way to get to the story. She goes, it's a very loose based story that doesn't really flow that well, she thought. But she enjoyed the characterizations. She loved how everybody was Barbie, everybody was Ken. And she said, yes, it absolutely is a direct in your face social commentary. And she said it wasn't necessarily, she didn't feel that it was necessarily wrong or over the top, but she said, yeah, it's absolutely a social commentary. And this is coming from my wife, who, again, at the time when she first entered the work world, it was not unusual for members of the staff to grab body parts.
What?
That's happened
Elbows
to
and
her.
stuff?
No, not at all.
Down south.
So and so it was not. See, the men in the office felt absolutely at liberty to grab a hold of your body parts,
Unbelievable.
because you were a coworker. And so this was not, and it did not happen just once. It happened more than a dozen times. Not okay.
You know,
So
I think there was probably a time earlier in my life where that would have seemed less offensive. You know what I mean? Like when I was a teenager or something like that. Like, okay, I mean, but now, and I'm picturing, Amanda or something. I'd be like, someone's going to get a broken arm.
Exactly. So she thought, she was like, yeah, some of the stuff they were talking about. Yeah. She was like, I get it, because she's like, I lived some of the stuff they were talking about.
Yeah, that's crazy.
And so,
sorry you didn't get to see the movie, man. Love to get that editorial feedback once you do.
They were going at 8:30 at night. I'm like, I am
not
going to make it.
Did you end up seeing Oppenheimer?
No, I haven't seen either one of those.
Yeah.
I need to, but it's I work every day of the week. I do not have a day off. There's not a single day that I am not working. So
your watch is going to say what mine did, which is poor sleep has caused delayed recovery time. Which
exactly.
I don't like it when the watch tells me things I already know. It's like it just highlights it.
Yeah.
Or the scale looking up at me. It's like saying you're eating too much and you're inactive.
Yeah. I hate it. I get it on and it's like one person at a time. You're like, shut up.
Nice.
Yeah.
Graham and I on Saturday ended up going to Ruder Hess in Parker. They're open for all sorts of water things, but only on Fridays and Saturdays. It is the source of water for Parker and Castle Pines and all that. So they tell you, we don't want you to swim in the water. Now, I get you can fall
just like
off.
the reservoir.
Yeah. So, I'm not a great paddleboarder. I've gone a couple times. Graham, of course, can do anything. He's just a freak. And we went out paddleboarding there for a couple hours, and I had this goal. I just didn't want to fall in. It was going to be great. Yeah. And so
did we make it?
Sort of. I made it almost the whole way.
Oh, great.
And so we get to, there's like 10 minutes left in our 2 hours. And I'm like, man, we should probably make our way back. And we had a great time going around, and we took little breaks and we took these pictures. I'll show you this one that I took that was perfectly timed for Graham's nonsense. But huge fish, by the way, in one part. It's like huge fish, big, scary fish. Like Graham's like, I don't want to fall off here because the fish might touch me. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay.
Okay. That's funny.
But then at one point, Graham does what Graham does, which is to have fun at my expense. And he grabs the back of the paddleboard.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm splashing him with the, the little paddle and all that stuff. And he's, he has it hooked onto his board somehow. Ooh. And I'm like, dude, come on, we got to head back. So I dig really hard deep into this thing, and he picks up the back of it to push it off of his thing. And whatever that movement was, I'm like, I'm going in. So I go straight down onto the board and split my lip on the paddle.
No.
And I'm like, dude, and I got a little bit of blood in my mouth, and I'm spitting it in the water. I'm like, I'm chumming now. They're coming.
They're coming.
Because, it's coming for us.
Yeah.
And we finally are headed back. And of course, on a reservoir that has just a handful of people on it. It was so nice. Yeah. And we went from about 10 to noon. So nice. There's one new group coming. And it must be a mom. She looks super experienced on the paddleboard, and then a couple kayaks, and then some other kids on a paddleboard. I'm about 20 yards from them.
Yeah.
And inexplicably, I just go in. I mean, I can't explain why it happened. I'm just over. Bam. And of course, because I had my phone with me, and the woman at the little rental place was like, you've got the iPhone 13. I'm pretty certain that is water resistant or something like that. I'm like, pretty certain? I'm like, well, what the hell? I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And so I climb back up onto the board. I get up there. I'm soaked. Graham is just like, are you okay?
Yeah. What
and
happened?
I can't even look back. I'm like, come on, we're out of time. We got to get in there.
Yeah.
The family is passing by me, and the woman on the paddleboard looks over and she goes, how's the water? And Graham was like, oh, dude,
ouch, yeah.
she just got, I'm like,
yeah, she got you.
Well, I don't know her.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know her.
Yeah. What you hurt my feelings.
I don't care what she says.
Oh, God. That's
so
funny.
we get all the way back, and everybody, I mean, had it happened an hour earlier, I'd have been bone dry.
Oh, yeah.
It was just hot enough out. So we did that. That was a great time. And then yesterday, because I'm failing in my attempts to prepare for this marathon, which is it's in less than 2 months. Well, wait a minute. Let's see, August, September. It's less than 3 months.
Oh.
So I'm like, well, I better go out and run 8 miles.
Yeah. That was your first mistake.
Yeah. And I thought to myself, pace doesn't matter here as long as I can do it. And so I went down to this place called Greenland something or other, open space park, and I was able to do it.
Oh, good.
The pace was not excellent, right?
No.
But I'm like, okay, I can do the 8 miles thing. But I was like, dang, man, I can feel this everywhere.
Yeah.
I'm on the way back up to the house, and Graham's like, hey, you promised we'd go work out after this. I said, I did?
Really?
What?
Do you have that in writing?
Yeah. I'm like, what do you mean? And he's like, well, Dad, they're going to close at 5 o'clock. We have to go right now. So we went over to the Parker Rec Center, and I'm like, well, what do you want to work out today? And he goes, legs. I'm like, buddy, I just ran 8 miles.
Yeah. Oh, geez.
So he goes, well, you can just do the weight I do. And I'm like, you know what? That seems fair. And it was still brutal. So I've got this. If I walk around like I've been a victim of some sort of
you were a touch slow this
botched, I don't know what, some sort of colon operation.
It did look like you had an uncomfortable proctology exam.
That's exactly right. That's
exactly
that's it. And it was tough.
What size tube did they use?
So then this ridiculous watch tells me your poor sleep has delayed your recovery time. Like the 8 miles I get done, and my watch, it's this Garmin watch. It will tell you how much recovery time it says.
Oh,
and I'm like, oh, great. I look down. And I guess it must know my age and my well-being. It says 3 days.
See, that's
3 days.
Week and a half.
Like I can't do anything for 3. That's stupid. That's ridiculous.
Oh, that's great.
And then last night I had a chance to go to a place called Sierra, which is a really nice restaurant down there off of about Ridgegate and I-25 in Lone Tree. And it was a buddy of the show, and he loves you, by the way, Corey, our buddy Corey. Yeah. Had a birthday, turned 62.
Wow.
I know. I couldn't believe he was 62 because he doesn't look 62
to
me.
At least.
And then he and the family are getting ready to fly to Hawaii because his daughter is transferring, if that's the right word, from UCCS to some dumpy University of Hawaii school in Hilo or something. I'm sure it's going to suck.
Yeah,
marine biology or something dumb like that. Super
play
dumb.
With the dolphins and crap.
Yeah, I mean, probably get island fever and want to come home in the first week. But nonetheless, they're going to go out there and spend some time moving her in. And I just thought, it was fantastic. Great dinner. He had some other buddies I met. It was, and
that's an excuse, right? Because she is technically able to move herself in, but
I don't know.
We got to go help.
It's really challenging.
So we've got to go to Hawaii for a few
luggage.
Days. It's
lot
difficult.
Of luggage. You're gonna go through the airport by yourself.
I know. And which drawers are you going to use? And you got to decide: is it going to go in the dresser or the closet?
Right.
It's really hard choices.
There is one thing that is really straight up legit. Probably what I've helped with, and that is they want to get her a car.
Oh, that's
and
smart.
So they sold her whatever car she had here, and sending a car from here to Hawaii, not cheap. So they're like, well, let's just go find a used car there.
I've sent a car across the ocean before. That is
not
cheap. Yeah, not cheap at all.
Why would you do that?
I'll here. You continue that, and I'll tell the story later.
Yeah, so anyway, so Corey's going to head out there, and he's called around and done a bunch of research. So they're going to go buy her a used car out there. Anyway, it was a great birthday dinner. Great folks, just really good people. So it was really nice.
Nice. Yeah, so this would be over 2 decades ago, 22 years ago. Yeah, it'd be about 22 years ago. I custom ordered a Mercedes-Benz from Germany.
What? You got this thing for the Deutsch,
I do.
Man,
I like the German cars, and I really like Mercedes, and I really like the engineering. And so at the time, there was a deal, and I had a previous Volkswagen Jetta that was a limited
Oh,
edition.
yeah.
That
Jetta's
I had,
sweet car.
that I had bought at a really, really good price because I knew what the car was, and the people at the Land Rover dealership had no idea, had no clue.
Yeah.
So I hosed them. Proudly,
Yeah, right.
Completely hosed them on this, and got it, and actually was able to
Victory.
sell. Yep, I was able to sell the car. Drove it for about 4 years, 3-4 years, and then was able to sell it for more money than I purchased it for.
Oh, buddy, that's
so I turned it around and had several $1,000s. So it made sense.
Gosh.
Yeah, it made sense to go ahead and put down the down payment, and we custom ordered the car. And the cool thing is now it's very expensive to ship a car from Germany over to America, and takes about 3 weeks. But the cool thing is, because you're custom ordering it, Mercedes-Benz at the time had a program where you can go over to Germany and you pick up the car from the factory. You eat lunch with some of the people that built it. They give you a tour of the factory. They give you a tour of the classic center.
Did you go?
And what we did at the time is it would be difficult for myself to go. So we sent my parents. So my mom and my dad went. And my dad is like a huge Mercedes-Benz aficionado. At the time, he had a 59 convertible 220S. So, I mean, he's had these cars forever.
Yeah.
And this was kind of like going to Mecca for him. So I was more than happy. Yes, I was more than happy to make sure this happened. And so they went there, and then they spent the next 6 weeks driving the car around Germany and Austria. And that was awesome.
And you were thinking, you're going to wreck it. I know Dad's going to wreck it.
At first, I'm like, not too many miles. Then I'm like, screw it. You're only there once. Who cares? Whee! Enjoy it and drive it.
And how do you still have that car?
No, it developed a electrical gremlin, and we had to get rid of it, and it hurt. It still hurts me right here in my heart. How long did you get to drive it before that thing revealed itself? We had 197,000 miles on it.
Dang, you got some driving in that thing.
Oh yeah. The thing held up. In fact, if it didn't have the electrical gremlin, it would still be going. It is. That's the thing, is if you take care of them and you do the regular maintenance, not extra maintenance, just regular maintenance, they will run for 300,000 miles.
They do the same thing with Volvo. They do the same thing with these other European-made cars, where they bring you out there and you get to watch the baby being born.
The coolest thing in the world is
like
because
adopting.
When you go, it is Mercedes-Benz that makes your reservations. So it is not Mr. and Mrs. Thorpe showing up at all of these places in Germany and Austria. It is the Mercedes-Benz drivers, and Mercedes-Benz has made the arrangement. Oh, do they ever? They upgrade you. They give you. They love you. You are a VIP.
Now I feel like I want to save some money to buy a new car.
And part of it is because, one, it's because of the brand, but two, because they know that if they treat you well, Mercedes-Benz and Volvo and BMW are still going to keep booking with them. So they have a huge incentive to make sure that you feel like you were treated special.
I know I've been off the air a little bit, but how do you think Kelly and Brian would respond to, I need to leave the country to go pick up my car?
As long as you bring the remote kit with you, I think we're good.
By the way, based on, there's no way I could afford something like that, unless it's a Matchbox car.
You could. I'll show you how. You could.
Yes, please. Is it criminal?
We can't discuss that on the air.
I feel like you're going to call me at some point and say, I need you to find me $11,000.
Yes, exactly. Like $11,781.
Dollars. Yes. Corey, by the way, on the Rumble here, texted in, Billy, you've hit the nail on the head. Dad has a duty to see his 19-year-old daughter is safely landed at her new college.
You are absolutely certain. You should be able to, you should explore the entire campus. You also, I got to tell you, Corey, make sure you check out the beaches, because you never know.
That's right.
You got to make sure that they're okay for your daughter.
There's the two sides of the island too. You don't want to forget Kona.
Oh yeah, you can't. No.
Hilo's a little rainier. Kona's more resorty and stuff like that. But you got to check that whole thing out.
You have to.
And it sounds like, I hope I'm not giving away too much of the itinerary, but they fly directly into Maui.
Oh,
because you can't fly apparently directly into Hilo, and then they have to take some sort of a puddle jumper over there. I mean, there's no reason to rush out of Maui. You could probably hang out there for a little bit and check out Kaanapali or Lahaina.
Because his daughter may want to come back over there and visit as well, and he needs to do that type of background information. That's right. It's only what a responsible father would do.
I asked him, because parents always think ahead. I said, well, what about Christmas? What's going on? I mean, how long is she going to be out there? Because this isn't like flying from Iowa. This is a big deal.
Yeah.
And he goes, well, we're thinking about bringing her back for Christmas from Hawaii. And then Kim, his wife, goes, how about Christmas in Hawaii?
Exactly.
And I'm like, I think that's the smarter answer, right?
That is the more intelligent
answer. It's an expensive answer, but it is the smarter answer.
Yeah, exactly. There. And especially if you do the thing about, hey, we're not doing prezzies. We're just coming to see you and doing that kind of stuff.
We're your present.
Exactly.
Daughter, we love you.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it.
It was a great weekend, except for, and I wanted to get your feedback on this with the minutes we have left. there is a United States women's national team that is a
ouch.
2-time World Cup champion playing for a historic 3rd World Cup championship. They tripped into the final 16. And then what in the hell happened?
Yeah, ouch. That hurts. Now, I did not watch the game. I saw highlights, and I have seen 5 different sets of highlights from different broadcast organizations, just because I want to see what they've got and how they put it together. My response after watching the game, they deserved it.
Really?
They deserve
Is Sweden
to lose.
that good, or are we not that good?
We are not that good. And here's the thing: is we talked about it. We talked about it before the Men's World Cup. That of the major sports, soccer is the one that gives the underdog the most chance at winning. Soccer is the one that is a really great equalizer, that if you are the overwhelming favorite, if you do not come out onto that field and perform, if you do not put that ball in the back of the net, you go home, and you deserve to. There isn't another, in my opinion, major sport where the pressure on that favorite is so great that if you do not come out and do your job, you will lose because of how soccer is structured. We saw it in the last Men's World Cup with Morocco. How many big-time teams did Morocco knock out?
They knocked off a bunch. That was a great story.
Because they were well organized. They played for each other. They knew their jobs, and they played as a team. It didn't matter the number of superstars the other team had. If the superstars didn't complete and they didn't finish, they lost. And that's exactly what you saw with the Americans. You saw all of our superstars get a chance in front of goal and not finish.
Oh, Megan Rapinoe.
Yeah. Not finish. I mean, it was Megan Rapinoe. There was some, Alex Morgan. There were a number of them.
Did she? I didn't watch the PKs or anything like that, but did Alex Morgan get a chance to kick?
Yes, she did. I don't remember. I think
I just know the one that has made it across
across
the social media platforms is Megan Rapinoe shooting it over the goal.
Yeah, because she's the one that draws the most attention to herself. She's the one that's most vocal. So she is that one. And I told you, that is going to haunt her for the rest of her life. That will be when she thinks about her entire soccer career.
That's how it ends.
Yeah, that is going to be one of the top 3 things that is always going to pop into her head. She will wake up in the middle of the night and have nightmares about that, because think about it. She is a longtime star. She has won everything.
Yeah.
But the last time she is on the field, the last time she touches a ball internationally, she messes it up and is partially responsible for her team going home early.
Dang.
That is going to be a dark cloud that is going to follow her for the rest of her life. I'm not saying it's going to drive her into depression, but I'm saying that it is going to haunt her. It is going to be this voice in the back of her head that is going to be reminding her of that weakness the rest of her life. She will never be able to escape it because it means that much. And she messed it up. She had the yips. And what that means is we've talked about it in a lot of other places, but when you see that ball driven so high above the goal, they have done this thousands and thousands of times. The muscle memory is there. When that happens, that's the head. Your head has fallen apart,
which
and
is
she's
so
psychologically
weird for someone
cracked.
with her experience.
Yeah, she cracked. And that's the only way that type of a kick happens. You can see people miss slightly, left, right, hit the crossbar. That's a little bit of technique. That's a little bit of nerves. When they just, when it goes way above.
I realize it wasn't the
gone.
same kind of. Meanwhile, we're watching Messi on some clips. Hit things that are ridiculous. I think the ball did a figure 8 or something as it went into the net in the upper corner. I mean, with only inches around.
I showed you the Brazilian Roberto Carlos, who bent it around the outside of the wall and then back inside the post. I mean, and that was from 45 yards away. I mean, dude was crazy.
That was.
You see this a lot.
Normally, when you offer to show me you're Brazilian, I say no. I refuse. Just you can describe it in a text, but I don't want to see
that rash is hurting him.
Yeah, I will not do it.
I referred back to when the U.S. hosted the World Cup. We had the Italian Roberto Baggio. He did the same thing in a penalty kick shootout, and it knocked out Italy, and he was never the same player. He was never, psychologically, he was never okay getting back on the field. In many ways, think about it being the Broncos, how we broke Cam Newton. We broke him because of what happened in the Super Bowl.
Oh, my gosh.
He was never the same player, and that's what happened to many of these. Yeah.
Von Miller got in his head. He may still be there.
Yeah. Yep.
I don't know, but he was never the same.
Yeah.
And maybe not to the same extent, but remember when the Bills were field goal kicking Christie, I think is who it was, and he misses it.
Yeah.
He gets to play one more season with them, has a great season. He's not the reason they lose the second Super Bowl, but then they cut ties. And that was kind of it, man. I mean, he's always going to be known as that guy. Or Billy Buckner.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
Ground ball, steps on the bag, game over. Red Sox win back in 86,
Yeah.
and he doesn't. And the Mets rally, come back, win again. And all of a sudden it's the, like Miracle Mets 86 version. But that's how people remembered Billy Buckner. It's just not fair.
Yeah, and people are going to remember Megan Rapinoe for this shot as well, and that's going to be part of her legacy. But the U.S. ladies deserved to lose. They should be coming home. There should be no hard feelings or tears about this. They earned this, because you got to figure they didn't score in that game, and they didn't score in the previous game. They had gone more than, I think, like 250 minutes without a goal from regular play. No. You go home. Soccer is cruel. It is a punishing game, and this is why. If you do not perform, you go home. There's a laundry list of teams over the years.
This is a good segue into a topic we can't just finish here, but you pointed out to me earlier that Donald Trump then went right to social media and fired off I don't know if it was a tweet or an X or whatever the hell you call it.
Oh, he only can truth. That's all he can do.
Truth. Yeah.
Which is, again.
And it says, "Nice shot, Megan. The USA is going to hell, 3 exclamation points." And I just thought, that's not presidential.
No.
That is just,
think about this.
What the hell?
Think about any president or presidential candidate in the history of our country celebrating the loss of an American national team, taunting them. How, what, when, who, what? And here's the other one is, imagine this. Imagine if it was, I don't know, let's just say it's Hillary Clinton or Bill Clinton or Obama or Adam Schiff or Joe Biden or any of them. And they were celebrating the loss of an American national team.
Not
Second story on Fox News.
Apparently, and I don't have the sound. Maybe we can find it at some point during the show. But it says Trump led conservative cheers at the team's downfall, saying the players were openly hostile to America and represent Joe Biden's America.
Yeah.
Nope.
Again,
they represent America.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
and again,
I'm not good with the politics and the Megan Rapinoes. I'm not good with all this stuff. But my God, man, you want to be the president of the United States, and our team that represents us, they wear the red, white, and blue on the field. That you're going to cheer in front of people that are downfall and get other Americans to cheer against them? Come on, man.
Yeah, that's the thing for me is that it's like, where does this happen? Did we have a presidential candidate and a former president cheering the loss of an American national team?
I did not think anyone could be more divisive than Obama. This guy is more divisive than Obama.
And he tries. That's the thing.
I don't know if he's trying. He just doesn't care. It's so personal with him. Everything is so he doesn't care.
I can see that. That's fair. That's better. He doesn't care.
I mean, if you look at every decision he makes through the prism of it's all about me, then it all makes sense. There's not a single decision that he can make where you'd go, well, that doesn't fit the it's all about me model. Yeah. That's the only thing that explains it. And this thing, I mean, okay, don't like Megan Rapinoe. I'm not wearing her jersey, but come on.
Yeah, I don't agree with everything that comes out of her face hole, but that's okay. I can support her when she's on the team.
Picture all the fans of the U.S. women's national team who are on the cusp, by the way, if they'd made it through, of history in a way that we couldn't do now for 16 years, right? All the young girls that are out there that play soccer and they look up to this team, not because of their political viewpoints, but because of what they do on the field. And then the guy that wants to be the president of the United States comes in and trashes them when they lose.
Yeah. Now think about all those little girls. Think about their moms.
Oh my goodness.
Their moms vote. How's that going to go over? How's that going to persuade them?
This dude is driving them to the Barbie movie.
Yeah, they are.
He's driving them to
How
Barbie.
Does this connect you with the voters? How does this connect you? This is very emotional for a large group of our country because of what it meant and what it meant to those ladies. And you're going to go, ha, 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 ha. Point at them and in front of them.
Understand.
Wow.
I do not understand.
That shocked me this weekend. I was like, wow.
Not that it's going to make any difference for supporters. I mean, they cheer him on when he does it.
Nope, not at all. And that's the basic argument, though, is it's not going to make any difference to his supporters, but he can't win with only his supporters. We've seen that twice. He can't.
But if you look at the polling, man,
that's
telling you.
I understand that, but hang on a sec. And again, I understand. I like to use polls because they start conversations. But remember what everybody on the conservative aisle have been saying about polls for the last 6 years. Can't trust polls. Polls don't mean anything. Polls don't mean anything. Polls don't mean anything. And now he's ahead of the polls. They all of a sudden are correct. Really?
No, that's a good point. That's a good point.
Really? What we got to decide. We got to decide which side of the aisle we're going to be on. Either the polls are nothing and we don't care and they can't do it right, or they give us a good snapshot of what an electorate is feeling and thinking at that moment. One or the other. It's odd how often we discount the polls we disagree with and then say that the ones that we do agree with are absolutely 100% right. Yeah.
We're on the cusp here of blowing up our record.
Excellent.
All the way through this. I want to leave us enough time to do the good stuff, which is the Thorpe Report, and you choose the news, but that means we've got to dive right out of here right now. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Got to get it over to the big man for the Thorpe Report, William.
That's the button that turns on my microphone. That's great there.
For a moment there, I was running your board.
This is Monday. Yes. Happy Monday to everybody. Severe weather is returning to the Eastern Plains today, as well as temperatures are going to warm up across the Front Range. As we move into this week, a ridge of high pressure is taking control of our weather pattern. Look for drier, warmer weather today and tomorrow into the start of next weekend. Chance for storms throughout the evening. We have a possibility of some scattered and afternoon evening storms today, highs of 83, overnight lows of 57. Sunny and warmer, 87 tomorrow. Wednesday, sunny, breezy, highs around 88. Police in Denver shot and killed a man during a domestic violence call on Saturday night. Shooting occurred around 8 p.m., 2300 block of West Cedar Avenue, according to the DPD. Neighbors called police after a man was seen assaulting a woman and a child. Officers arrived on scene, and they saw a female on the ground, according to Denver Police Chief Ron Thomas. Thomas said the suspect was agitated and began aggressively approaching the officers. They were giving him commands to stop. He continued his very aggressive advance toward the officers. They deployed a taser, which was ineffective. He continued his advance toward the officer. One officer did fire their duty weapon, striking the individual who went down, transported to the hospital, and pronounced deceased. Name not yet released. Elsewhere, we have a black bear that has bit the arm of a man while camping near Trinidad on Saturday evening. Camper was in a hammock when the bear attacked him at a campground. And the man said he was in the hammock when he heard a rustling noise, turned on his headlamp, saw a dark-colored bear next to him. He told wildlife officers the bear bit him on the upper right arm, turned and then wandered off. Hey, maybe now he's going to be a werebear. It could be one of those things, but I'm just saying. Victim told CPW he had no food or other attractants, I like that word, with him in the hammock that might have lured the bear. Attractants. That's good. Yeah, wildlife officers are searching for the bear because right now they're going to have to kill him. So, yeah. The pilot of a single-engine aircraft was killed after a crash in El Paso County on Saturday afternoon. Crash occurred around noon near Meadow Lake Airport near Falcon. Adult male pilot of the aircraft found deceased upon the arrival of the crews. That usually happens when you hit the ground going very, very fast. Cause of the crash still under investigation. Identity not yet released. This one you may want to know about here, George. You may not have heard about this one. South Korea is evacuating tens of thousands of scouts by bus from a coastal jamboree site as tropical storm I don't know how to pronounce that, looms. Tropical storm coming. Vehicles beginning this morning and tomorrow morning are going to move about 36,000 scouts, mostly teenagers, from the World Scout Jamboree.
So glad you brought that up. I was going to have Jeff on later this week. They've already departed the Jamboree, and they are now at Camp Humphrey up there about 67 miles south, I think, of the DMZ. But yeah, that thing happened. The typhoon is real. Apparently, it was just an S show by the Koreans in terms of the logistics and stuff. So it started with the UK and the US, and now it looks like everybody's bailing. Yeah, everybody is there. They say it's going to take more than 6 hours to evacuate all the scouts from the campsite. They're putting them into various hotels and other places. Believe me, Jeff wishes it was a hotel. They're in a gym, a middle school gym on a military base. Well, they started out with hotels and other facilities. I'm like, it's going to be a lot of other facilities because they're not going to spring for the hotels. Yeah, Jeff's big gripe on the phone the other day was, the UK guys, they're all going to a 5-star hotel and they paid $1,000 less for this trip than we did. I'm like, leave it to the scouts to find out. Exactly. You know leave the scouts to tell us how much you pay. Yeah, what is the payment? Yeah, exactly. And finally, Colorado is officially 147 years old. And why is that important to you? Well, today you get free entry to all state parks. That's kind of cool. So I'm wondering if it covers the one that is down here near Cherry Creek Reservoir, if it covers that one, because that is probably, in my opinion, the city's best dog park. So if it covers that one. Wait a minute, the dog park down here, if you go down Parker Road from us? Yeah, I'm wondering if it covers that, because it's a free admission, then I'm going today. I'll bet it is. Yeah. I'll bet it is. Why would they exclude that one? And it's kind of attached in a way to the Cherry Creek State Park. Yeah, so I'm assuming it is. So I'm thinking. Also, though, no swimming in the state park in the reservoir at the Cherry Creek today, because, the toxic algae. Is that true? Yeah, it is true. Yeah. Holy crap. Toxic algae. You don't want a paddleboard there. No, not at all. All right, that's all I've got. These are done. They're going in the circular filing system over here. Yeah. Listen, I've got to cut away for another quick break. Come back, and then we're going to do the good stuff, the Thorpe Report. Stick around. George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Let's flip it back over to the MC for the good parts of the show. It's Billy with You Choose the News.
Good morning, sir. Yes, it is that time where we get to play everybody's favorite fake radio news game show, You Choose the News. Yes, we have scoured the interwebs throughout this weekend for really stupid stories and then give them fake news headlines to play this really dumb news game because Well, they keep paying us to do it. So, we'd really appreciate if you don't tell the
Boom.
higher ups about what's going on here, because
They're not listening.
We like the money. All righty, sir. Here are your choices this morning. Headline number 1, surprise science lesson. Headline number 2, solve it with fire. Headline number 3, crime-fighting octogenarian. And headline number 4, AI is already racist. Once again, your choices are surprise science lesson, solve it with fire, crime-fighting octogenarian, and AI is already racist. Your choice.
It's the tattoo I have on the inside of my bicep. Solve it with fire.
Yes, solve it with fire. Here we're going to go to Louisville, Kentucky. Gorgeous Louisville, and Mayor Craig Greenberg is making an announcement because there is a home in that community that there was a squatter living in. A man that was homeless. He turned it into basically an awful hoarding, just mess of a place. And inside they have found dozens of barrels and jugs of hazardous materials, specifically chemicals. Some homemade chemicals, some very toxic, some are actually, can explode. So the city is deciding what to do with the house. And their solution is fire. They want to burn it down. Yes, the government has come in and said, what are we going to do with all of these toxic chemicals in this house that is run down? How about we burn it? That was their solution. I'm certain nothing happens when you burn chemicals and stuff goes in the air. We can ask Suncor what happens with that. But yeah, when we wonder why sometimes government is ineffective and doesn't work, here's the solution. They have a house with chemicals, and they're like, how about, have you tried fire?
When the Aurora Theater massacre guy, they went to his apartment and saw it was all booby trapped. They couldn't figure out the booby traps for a bunch of reasons, and they went down, and one of the recommendations, the whole apartment building, the whole building, they wanted to clear the block and burn the building to the ground. And someone was like, nope, stop. We're not going to do that. Yeah.
Yes, I still like that meeting. What can we do about this? This house, we need to remove it. Have you tried fire, sir? Johnson, I like how you think.
Fire works.
Wow.
Fire good.
That's great. Fire good. Alrighty. Second choice this morning. Crime-fighting octogenarian. Surprise science lesson. AI is already racist.
I'm going to go with the crime-fighting octogenarian.
Crime-fighting octogenarian. Here we are going to meet 87-year-old woman from Brunswick, Marjorie Perkins. Recently, she was awoken in the middle of the night. She found a teenage boy standing over her and was threatening to hurt her. Said, I am going to cut you, and a bunch of other things.
What?
She started to fight back, eventually getting out of bed. She grabbed a chair, held him at bay, like they do the lion tamers. Same thing. Right. That's what she did. She held him back, and he eventually tired and stopped attacking her. Yeah, he did, and he wandered into the kitchen. And she got this idea, maybe he's hungry. She starts talking to him, and he's like, I haven't eaten in a few days. So she feeds him a snack. She gets out some honey, some peanut butter, some crackers, and he starts eating.
And then she stabbed him.
No, that's when she called 911 and get the police to show up and arrest him. So again, understand this 87-year-old woman fought off a teenage attacker, then fed him, and then had him arrested. I mean, she's better than Batman.
Great.
Yeah,
that's great.
That's fantastic. Alrighty, final choice this morning, sir. AI is already racist or surprise science lesson?
I think AI is racist.
AI is already racist. At least that's according to 24-year-old Rona Wang. Pay attention to that last name. Rona is a graduate of MIT. I know. There's two reasons for it, though. Rona is a graduate of MIT. Also, surprisingly, she's Asian, and she was recently playing around.
With a name like Wang, you would have thought Dutch.
You would have thought, yes. And she was playing around recently with AI. One of the things that she did is she uploaded her headshot for her current job and asked AI to improve upon it.
What?
After AI,
does it do that?
It can, yeah. It creates art and can do all sorts of stuff. So she asked it, okay, improve my headshot. And so AI said, yes, young lady, I can improve the headshot, and it turned her white. Yes.
We whitewashed an Asian lady?
Yes. And I'm not talking just a little bit. I'm talking took her eyes and made them rounded. That lightened her skin, changed the texture of her hair. Yes. It turned the Asian woman into a white woman. When they asked AI, how do we improve this picture of the Asian woman? It made it a white woman.
That's ridiculous.
Yes, it is ridiculous. How
I
is this
want to
going on?
upload pictures of a bunch of other people like Oprah.
Yes, exactly.
Or just to see what it does there.
Yeah.
Or I want to see what it does to you. Does it
I know.
keep you as a white guy?
I don't know.
People may not know that if they're not in the Rumble,
Yeah.
but Billy's a white guy.
It is just ridiculous. Well, that is it. That is the end of today's game show. You choose the news. And we are proudly sponsored today by Elon Musk's newest venture. Yes, Elon has an answer for everything. Instead of X, use Elon's magic 8-ball. You will get answers like, trust me, I'm a genius. Will you carry the spawn of my loins? It's not my fault it exploded. And my erratic, uninformed decisions are okay, because you can always trust them with your own Elon Musk Magic 8-Ball. Make dumb decisions just like a billionaire. Get yours today. Operators are standing by. You can get a 20% discount if you order and mention the show.
I will
Alrighty,
fight
sir.
you, Mark Zuckerberg,
Yes.
and your MMA skills.
That is going to be ridiculous. Did you see he's already saying that he needs surgery, though, first? So he's already putting it off.
I want to
Yeah.
see that. That thing will make
Oh,
billions.
God. Yeah,
I
it will.
think. Maybe they could do it in space. I don't know if that works out. Listen, that's it for the first hour of the show. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Sherrie Peif for a very special reason here. She was an eyewitness to something that took place on Saturday. We've talked about it on the show. We'll keep talking about it with you. Stick around. George Brauchler on the George Show, 710. George Brauchler back with you here for hour 2 of 4, 710 KNUS. At 10 o'clock, we get replaced by a guy named Charlie Kirk. At 11 o'clock, Dennis Prager, who will be here on August the 30th at the View House for the 3rd annual Prager Cigar Night. You got to be a part of that thing. It turns out they're going to inflict upon you if you attend me as playing some sort of a role on the stage. I don't know what I have to wear, if anything, or who I'll be introducing or talking about, but be part of that. Go out there to the 710knus.com website, check it out, get your tickets. It comes with a drink, a cigar, apparently a premium cigar, which I've said this before. I don't have the palate for it. I like them, but it could be a Swisher Sweet, but I think it's probably something better. And a carving station, hors d'oeuvres, lots of hugs. I'm not sure with Dennis, but probably lots of hugs, especially as you get past that first drink. Nonetheless, it's on August the 30th at the View House, conveniently located in Centennial, right off of I-25. Go check it out. Now, listen, Saturday, there was a big event. We talked about it last week. I mean, we had on Dave Williams, who's the chair of the GOP, who's always been so great about coming on the air to talk and answer questions and stuff, mine and yours. And then we had Randy Corcoran on from our own 710 KNUS family, but also big-time attorney for the state GOP. He's the national committee man, and he is part of a lawsuit that's been filed that represents the second prong of this two-pronged attack at the open primary system in the state. That second prong is the one that's going to take a little bit longer, but he and a guy named John Eastman, you may have never heard of that guy. They have filed a lawsuit for an injunction, I think, against the open primary. And if that thing were to get some traction in federal court, and they filed it in federal court, which I get now, that makes total sense to me, that would stop the open primary, I believe, for both parties. And they'd have to reconvene and figure out some other method of doing their candidate selection. That's one prong. That's down the road. The one that took place on Saturday is a multi-step process. It was one that involved an amendment that people called the Bonnewell Amendment, just colloquially. It was really Amendment 7, and it had to do with providing a lower threshold through a mechanism we'll talk about with our next guest, for the opt-out, which requires a 75% vote. We have someone on the line, of course. She's a regular for us, a friend of the show, normally joins us on a regular basis, but we brought her on special, and she was nice enough to join us to have the conversation about what happened from her perspective on Saturday. It's Complete Colorado Page 2's Sherrie Peif. Sherrie, thanks for joining us.
You're welcome. Good morning, George.
Now, were you there?
I was.
Now, tell me.
Early. 7:30.
Tell me why you were there, one, but two, I want to get the play-by-play. I mean, this seemed like it was a long process for a couple reasons, maybe not because of this issue, but there was some voting issue and something else that happened, and it turned into quite a long day. Did you stay for the whole day?
I did. I left shortly after the Amendment 7 decision was announced, and that was, I think, about 5:30. I think they had some cleanup measures that they had, some housekeeping stuff that they had to do, but I had gotten there at 7:30 that morning, and it didn't get over until about 5:30 that night. Dave Williams had hoped to be out of there by 2. So it was an extremely long day, but yes, I was there for the whole thing.
Well, set the stage for us, at least with regards to Amendment 7, and then we'll talk about the little voting issue. But how was it presented? Who spoke for it, and what did you find were the statements that were made that got the most response from the crowd?
Yeah, so, obviously Chuck Bonnewell presented it. It was his amendment. It was his idea. So he presented it, and he presented it with all of his reasons that, we've all heard over the course of the last a couple of weeks. And the interesting part about his presentation was that he said, he presented this minor amendment. He talked about the lawsuit and how they had been told that they could change the bylaws in the state GOP party to compel voting members to be at these meetings so that they could meet that 75% threshold. Well, so that was why he proposed this minor amendment that would do that, compel.
He calls it a humble amendment, modest amendment.
That's it. That's what it is. A modest amendment that would compel people to be there, that just all of a sudden, blew up. And he can't understand. And for the life of me, I think that is the weirdest part of this whole thing, is he can't understand why it caused so much controversy. Get to that later. You asked me why I was there. I guess
Yeah.
I forgot.
Yeah.
I am a voting member of the state central committee.
Yeah.
I'm a bonus member out of Weld County. I'm also the chair of the 8th congressional district.
That's a big
So
one.
I only get one vote, but I do have a vote at that
Yeah.
thing. So he presents it, everybody, and then there was a lot of people that went, in favor of it. And finally, there was a lot of people standing down there wanting to talk on the microphone, but we just kept hearing all of the reasons why we should vote yes. Some woman got up there and said, hey, we need to hear from people that don't want this as well. So the chair, which was not Dave Williams at the time, actually Dave Williams had stepped away from the stage, turned it over to the state treasurer because they'd not made an announcement on a vice chair yet, and she wouldn't take office until after the meeting was over anyway. But the gentleman, the state chair that was running the meeting, finally started asking for people that opposed it. So then we heard from some people that opposed it. They were all the same arguments. I mean, everybody on both sides
How
of
many
the issue
people
has
spoke
the
in
same
favor
argument.
of it? It was Dave and Chuck. Who else?
Dave and Chuck, and I don't know who all, as far as, I don't know a lot of the people out of El Paso and Douglas County, but I would say a chunk of the people the biggest share of the people that were in favor of this amendment came from Douglas, El Paso, and Pueblo County.
Were there applause lines that were built in there where people like, that's gotta...
Oh, of course. I mean, yeah, it was always about, the Democrats controlling the state of Colorado. And if we want to get back our Colorado, this is what we need to do. And this is the only way that we can win the opt-out. And, it's such a large threshold. I mean, I think that large threshold is the thing. And you can't even get 75% of the people there. And people need to either be there in person or by proxy. And this is how we compel them to do this. And so, and those were the key points. And the people against it, such as myself, were, you can't take away somebody's vote just because you need to fit your own agenda. You need to fit your own need, and especially pick and choose when you use it. Because that was the other big part of this whole thing, is there were a couple of amendments ran to this proposal to begin with. The proposal initially stated that anytime the state wants the GOP, state statute wants the GOP or the Democrats to reach a 75% majority of the body. Now, that's not of the people in attendance.
Right.
That's of the actual body. Anytime they want you to reach that threshold, that this Bonnewell amendment would take place. Well, Chuck decided to amend that to say this amendment was only going to be in effect for the opt-out. Well, that made it even more of a pick and choose.
Yeah.
So now we're just going to change so that was the side of the people, so everybody that spoke on both sides. But then there was another amendment that was brought forth by Representative Richard Holtorf out of Eastern Colorado.
Yep.
He represents portions of Weld and I think Logan or Morgan counties. He wanted, his amendment basically took it back to status quo. The only thing different that it did is it changed the wording in our bylaws to, rather than just, if you're not, there's really not wording in our bylaws, but it put wording in our bylaws that would say, if you're not there, you are neither a no vote or a yes vote. You are just simply abstaining from the vote. That wasn't good enough because, of course, that wouldn't do what the state wants.
Yeah, that doesn't affect the 75% thing.
Exactly. So that amendment failed after a bunch of controversy. And then we got to the point where there were two groups of people, and I was actually surprised to see the second group. I was not aware of the second group. I was aware of the first group because I was kind of part of it, only because I had inside knowledge to it. But Josh Sonnenberg, the current chairman of the Logan County Party, also son of, Jerry Sonnenberg.
Yeah, the great Jerry Sonnenberg, yeah.
Yep. Dusty Johnson, who is the chairwoman of the Morgan County Republican Party, and Hunter Rivera, who is the current interim chair of the Weld County Republican Party. The three of those folks were going around collecting signatures from people in attendance to put forth, our bylaws say that if you have 45 voting members who want to call for a roll call vote, you can do that. You can force a roll call vote of any issue. So those three were going around collecting signatures. I think Josh told me, Josh is the one, this was Josh's idea from the beginning. I think Josh told me they had about 60. And then Ben Nicholas, who's actually one of the founding authors of the opt-out movement itself, and the representative to the FCC out of the 8th Congressional District, Ben Nicholas also was going around getting signatures from people on that side of the aisle.
For what? What were they doing? What was the goal of this?
To have a roll call vote on the 7th Amendment. Nobody wanted, because all of the amendments prior to that had been by a standing vote.
I got it. So now we're going to get your name on your vote.
Yes, exactly. And here's the problem with the standing vote, at least from the side of Josh Sonnenberg and Dusty Johnson and Hunter Rivera. The problem with the standing vote was there were a ton of proxies there. There were more proxies there than there were bodies. Okay.
Wow.
And I think there was something like 340 some odd credentialed members or credentialed votes, and there was 180 of those were proxies.
Wow.
So there was more than half of the votes there were by proxy. So
what do you make of that, by the way, Sherrie? What does that tell you? I mean, this is a huge, important meeting, if only because of this amendment, and yet it sounds like you had less than half of the votes that were going to be cast in person.
Part of the problem with this particular meeting is not with the people that were voting members, I don't believe. But part of the problem with this meeting is this meeting technically was never a scheduled meeting. It was a special meeting. It was a meeting that was called because Vice Chair Priscilla Ron stepped down, and we had to choose a new vice chair, and that vice chair had to have been chosen within a certain period of time from the time that she stepped down.
I get it.
The regular meeting for this kind of situation is scheduled for September. We already have that meeting scheduled. So you have people who, such as Weld County. Weld County brought a ton of proxies. And the reason we brought proxies is because we've got folks who are credentialed members who are voting members who are in the middle of harvest. It's wheat harvest right now for a lot of people. Yeah, you've got people on the western slope who are in the middle of peach season. You've got people on the eastern slope who are in the middle of, who are right at the height of picking cantaloupes. So there's a lot of problems getting these people or 4, 5, 6 hours away that didn't plan on a meeting in August. They planned on a meeting in September. So
did this thing then? My guess is Amendment 7 kind of overshadowed the vote to replace Priscilla as vice chair.
For the most part, yes, but not really, because that was even a controversial vote. Todd Watkins was what everybody thought was going to be the front runner. Todd Watkins is out of Douglas County. He's friends with Dave Williams. He was Dave Williams' choice that everybody was aware of. He ran for chair in the beginning, and he lost, and he threw all of his votes at Dave Williams. Everybody thought it was going to be Todd Watkins, just based on the Dave Williams thing. Well, if it wasn't going to be Todd Watkins, it was going to be Aaron Wood, who is also very controversial and very far right.
Outspoken for sure, yeah.
Yeah, and then lo and behold, there was this lady who came forth, Hope Sheppelman, who nobody had ever really heard of. She's never been very involved in politics, at least not at the state level, within her own county. And the county she came from escapes me. I think it's a smaller county on the western slope, who was pretty in the middle of things. I'll be honest, I walked into that meeting intending not to vote for anybody because nobody as vice chair is going to make a difference in the GOP right now because Dave Williams is going to run the state GOP. But I had not heard from her. I had not spoken to her. I did not know anything about her. So I hunted her out when I got there, and I talked to her, and I asked her, the questions that I needed to hear, and she won me over. And so on first ballot, whoever was going to win that needed 117, I think it was 117 votes to win. And she had 117. I think they needed like 120 something. I don't know what it was. She was 4 votes shy of what she needed to win that seat. Yeah. But amazingly, they came back and said, well, but we have a problem. We credentialed people wrong. 15 people. We had 15 more votes than what were credentialed.
Wait, what? Hold on. Aren't we the ones that are supposed to be the guarantors of the integrity of the election system? And this was all in person by hand voting?
Yeah, and there were 15 more votes than what was credentialed.
Wow.
So they eventually came back and said, well, we found those 15 people. They just hadn't been credentialed properly, so we're not going to cancel the first vote. we're going to go ahead and move forward because we don't think it's going to hurt anybody, and we're not going to make anybody drop out of the second vote. So, however, two of the people that were running, Suicide and Aaron Wood, both voluntarily dropped out. And to the shock, because Aaron Wood had about 60 or 70 votes, I think.
Yeah.
To the shock of everybody in the room, I don't think anybody in the room expected it. Aaron Wood threw his votes behind Hope Scheffelman instead of Todd Watkins. Yeah. And he urged all of his supporters to vote for Hope Scheffelman.
Wow.
And I think everybody in the room was pretty stunned. And so a second vote came back, and Hope won hands down. She won soundly. So that was also kind of a big thing, because
the voting thing is laugh out loud funny.
The voting thing, I'll be honest with you. I'm from Weld County. Carly Coppice is my clerk and recorder.
She's great. She's great.
She's amazing, and she has gotten so much grief on a statewide level from this group of people for her stance on elections. As a Republican, they love to beat up on Carly online, and all I could think to myself when that came down with those 15 votes is, man, I wish Carly was here.
Is this what we can expect, by the way, if we withdraw from the state primary and we end up just doing it by caucus? Is this the kind of integrity we can expect? Is it, hey, everybody, we may have to do this again. Somebody carried a 3, and now it turns out we have way more votes than we have people.
And here's the argument for, they want paper ballots for everything. They want to go back to election day voting. So let me just tell you the other side of that. I already told you 180 people were by proxy, right? But you still had to check those people in. So we checked in 340 some odd.
Yeah,
people,
yeah.
Okay. Check-in started at 7 a.m. and credentialing started at 7 a.m. and the meeting started at 9. They were not done with the people in line at 9 o'clock when the meeting started.
Oh my God.
So you couldn't even get 350 people checked in 2 hours. And you want to put, what do we have? 2.5 million voters through a hand ballot on election day?
Yeah, that's tough, man. That's really tough. Couple things. People have texted in. Hope's from La Plata County.
Okay, La Plata County.
And then someone else texted in and said, and it's Stu AC like
AC.
Casey. That's fascinating to me. One part we didn't talk about, Sherrie, was what was the outcome of the vote to adopt or reject Amendment 7, and what was the threshold they needed to obtain, and what did they end up with?
So it's a 2/3 majority, and they needed, I don't know the exact number that they needed, but if everybody that was credentialed in the morning voted, the no side needed 119. So that would mean that the other side needed 238. As it turned out, they lost, the amendment lost, and the no side had, I think, 149 point some odd votes, because some counties have fractional votes. So they lost. They did not. They had more than 50%, but they had less than the 2/3 majority that they needed to see it pass.
So what's next then? It fails. Were there boos, hisses? Did someone light something on fire?
There was nothing. You could have heard a pin drop in that room. The no side remained very classy. They didn't yell. They didn't clap. They didn't get excited. They just sat there and was like relieved. I mean, they were happy within their own little groups, but there was no noise out of the no side. And the yes side was just deflated. I mean, it was, you could have heard a pin drop. I think it felt like a gut punch. You know what I mean? What's next?
Could they bring it back for the September meeting? Can they still bring? I mean, is there any end to how many times they can come back?
They said no during all of the debate, because one of the proposals put forth was to refer this back to the bylaws committee and have a little bit more time to figure out a better way to compel our folks to the meeting. And somebody came forward, I think it was Dave Williams. I couldn't see who was standing at the microphone because I had people in front of me. It was kind of a massive weirdness at that time. But I think it was Dave Williams or Chuck Monowell came forth and said, we can't do that, because if it goes back to the bylaws committee, it won't be able to come back until September. And at that point, we have to have the opt-out vote in September, or we can't pass the opt-out vote. So it's my understanding that the opt-out has to take place in September. And one of the local news, I think it was Colorado Politics, in their story, spoke to somebody who they didn't identify, but somebody within the opt-out movement made the remark that they probably won't bring the opt-out in September because they don't have the votes.
They won't have the 75%.
No, they will not have the 75%.
So that's it then. It sounds like, at least based on what they've said so far, and there's nothing that precludes them from changing their mind, it sounds like it's down to this last prong to try to get the open primary thing found unconstitutional in federal district court. That's it.
Correct, which is one of the things that just about everybody, I will say that is the one thing that nearly 100% of the state central committee can agree on. I mean, everybody's behind the lawsuit.
That's right.
You know, if that's the way to go. Nobody, I don't think there was probably a person in that room or a person who sent their proxy to that room who voted for Proposition 108. Nobody wants the semi-open primary that Colorado currently has. They want to go back to the way primaries are supposed to be. If you want to vote in a primary, affiliate with a party.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think, too, what's coming for us, if this thing isn't addressed in court, I think it's coming for us anyway, I guess, is ranked choice voting, which is a different topic for a different day. But I think that Kent Theory and some other folks are going to try to put that on the ballot soon. And man, will that change the way we pick candidates.
That will, you know, and I'll be honest with you, I'm not completely opposed to ranked choice voting. If you look at my district where I live, all of my representatives, every single one of them, Yadira Caraveo in CD8, Rhonda Solis at the State Board of Education out of CD8, and Mary Young out of House District 50, not one of those women won by more than 50% of the vote. So I struggle when I see that I'm being represented by people who even a simple majority of their districts did not want them in there.
Well, you know, that would have, you're right, in the 8th, because the Libertarian candidate took a certain percentage that would, my guess is, you're right, ranked choice voting, we have Congresswoman Barb Kirkmeyer.
We would, and we would have Peggy Probst sitting in State Board of Education, where a constitutionalist opponent in the State Board of Education race in CD8 pulled about 4,000, I think, votes away from Peggy Probst.
Interesting.
And you know that constitutionalist would have gone Republican. And we would probably have Ryan Gonzalez sitting in House District 50. He lost by, I think, 312 votes in House District 50. And we had a Libertarian in that district pull almost 2,000 votes. So, yeah, I think you would have seen a complete shift in leadership had we not had those third-party candidates or a runoff of some sort.
We're going to have this debate in the future, too. Someone smarter than I am on this is going to have to weigh in, and then I'd love to hear the arguments, because those make me feel like, okay, yeah, this is where it could work. And we'll talk about it more in the future. But the downside is I just don't like the idea that we're trying to come up with a system that's intended to moderate candidates. I just don't think that's the business of the process. I just want it to be more representative.
And that's why I said I'm not completely sold on it. But there are so many examples that you could go through in the state of Colorado that makes a person go,
Did you just go things that make you go, Come on, Sherrie. Well, I don't know what you're doing. Sherrie Peif, Complete Colorado, page 2. Thanks for the great eyewitness recounting of what took place. Speaking of recounting off of that first vote. But thank you for doing that. We'll have you back on for our regular stuff. But this was, I just couldn't not talk to you about it.
No, that's fine. I appreciate it, George. Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. That was Sherrie Peif, Complete Colorado, page 2. You got to check out the stuff she writes. Nobody else in the mainstream media covers it, and it's all great stuff, especially if you're a conservative wondering, why doesn't anybody cover this? That anybody is Sherrie Peif. Check her out. Listen, we're going to cut away for a break. We're going to have a section when we come back. I'd love to talk with you about what you heard. If you were there, I'd love to get your take on this as well. What's next for the GOP? And then I'm still happy to have the debate to you. It is better that we cut off the unaffiliateds from this. It's going to give us better candidates. We're going to win if. I still want to have that conversation because I'm still noodling through it in my head. I'm just not convinced. I'm just not convinced by drawing up the drawbridge and cutting off other voters, including Republicans. I'll tell you what I think is going on when we come back. You stick around. 303-696-1971. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. My thanks to Sherrie Peif from Complete Colorado, page 2. If you missed the interview, take a listen off of the podcast there. You can get to that. Had a couple texts come in here from our buddy Joan. The report is crap as to the numbers. Well, I don't know what the numbers are, but I read them in one of the local papers, and it was that there was more than 50% of the votes cast voted for the amendment, but not nearly enough to get to that 2/3 supermajority. And so, interestingly, that's it. A supermajority kept us from reducing the supermajority down to a supermajority. I mean, just very, very interesting. And then another text: why should Republicans allow non-Republicans to select Republican candidates? I said the law, and the response was right. And the reason, look, bottom line is it was Proposition 108, man. Coloradans had a chance to vote for it, and Coloradans passed it. I think it was like 53 to 47%. Now, that doesn't sound like a big blowout, but in campaigns, a 6-point swing, that's a healthy win. It wasn't 1, it wasn't 2. 6-point swing is a big one. So, when Colorado had a chance to vote on this, it did. And I know what you're saying here. That is like, well, unaffiliated's got a chance to vote on whether or not they should get to vote in the primaries. I agree with you. I don't like it. I want parties to be able to pick their own standard bearers. And if you're unaffiliated, that's totally up to you. But we've made it so easy for unaffiliateds to vote. And that is, you just affiliate and then you vote. And if you want to unaffiliate again, unaffiliate. I mean, it was already so easy, but even that was just too hard. But I'm telling you, the conversation that convinced me was one about who's paying for this. And unaffiliated voters, who now make up, 47% of our registered voters, they're paying taxes to fund the clerk and recorders and secretary of states to run elections that they are not a part of. And if the answer is, well, they should just affiliate, that's a dumb answer, because they don't have to affiliate to be charged the taxes to spend on these things, right? So in my mind, I'm like, okay, I get it. And what should happen is, it shouldn't be a, hey, unaffiliated voters get to vote in these primaries unless there's a 75%, vote out of all the membership. What it should be is, unless the parties can come up with a way to pay for it for themselves. That should be the standard in my mind. It's not how much of the party wants to do. If the party can say, hey, we can fund this ourselves and we'll do it, and the majority of our membership want to do that, boom. And that's it for me. It's not the 75% piece. But that wasn't Proposition 108. I didn't make it. Someone else did. And it got funded. I'm sure Kent Thiry and some other folks who are looking for voter reform and election reform, who are coming for us with this ranked choice voting thing, they did it. And then we voted for it. So now what? Here's our buddy Joan says, I was there and had to leave at 2:30. I was glad to see the paper ballots and the transparency with the teller committee. That transparency, though, sounded like it was like, here's what's transparent. We've screwed this up. Dave did a real good job of getting the meeting moving. That's great to hear. And the real gut punch was the Treasurer report and the lack of oversight and transparency. That's from Joan. Joan, what did the Treasurer report say? Please call in or text in, how much money did the GOP reveal that they have? Because this is going to be an issue moving forward. The reason the Colorado GOP party is weak has nothing to do with leadership. It's not going to be Dave. It's not going to be KBB. That is not what makes the party weak. What makes the party weak is campaign finance and what we do in the state of Colorado. If the party has no money, it can't influence anything. It's an organizational organization. That's all it exists for, is because there's this pre-existing network that takes place from the precinct level up, and they have access to it. That's the only power the state GOP has. They can't pick candidates, can't influence candidates. The most amount of money they can give is negligible. It's why all of the money that influences races has gone out into the shadows, into those third-party things. So all of this gnashing of teeth over, hey, we're getting the wrong candidates, and we don't have the, whether you agree or disagree, the fact is, where the money goes is where you see the influence in politics. I know that comes as a complete and utter shock. There's no money in the state GOP. And it sounds like it's worse now than it's been in a long, long time. But I'd love to hear from Joan what those numbers are. If you want to call in, Joan, or anyone else at 303-696-1971 to hash it out over this. I I have grave concerns about the financial health of the GOP. I don't know. Even if the GOP got a windfall amount of $10 million, which will never, ever, never happen. If they did, what are they going to do with it? They're going to give it to the nominees. Well, those nominees will have already been picked through this process. So now what? Are they going to withhold dollars to nominees because they're not the right donors? You know, one thing Sherrie said about ranked choice voting in the CD8 made me think, if we had ranked choice voting in the 8th, Barb would have won. But we don't have to have any more of these quote unquote agreements with the Libertarian Party. Like, hey, as long as we nominate somebody you guys find acceptable, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, you won't run someone against us. Then we don't have to worry about having those kind of garbage agreements. I mean, those kinds of agreements really just empower the far right part of the party, which if you're a part of that part, I get it. But the idea there is to say, hey, listen, the libertarians are coming for us and they're going to steal away the election because, of course, they're a cut off the nose to spite the face kind of a group unless they get the person that they want. They'd much rather have Caraveo than Barb because Caraveo is much closer to nothing they've ever stood for than Barb. So maybe that ranked choice voting in that one works, but I'm opposed to the idea that an election system should be set up to try to moderate candidates. That's not the purpose of it. If I can wrap my head around the idea that it's more designed for better representation, I could get there. But right now it feels like it exists for one reason, and that is to push out the crazy progressives and to push out the super conservatives. More from Joan. I heard people left quickly because the room after the vote felt likely to explode. I'm texting Joan right now. You're seeing how the sausage gets made. What was the treasurer's report? Exclamation. No, just a question mark. We'll find out about that too. Hey, listen, talking about money, would you like to have an extra $31,000 in your pocket when you sell your house compared to your neighbors? Well, then sign up with Gay Ribble and the Empower Home team of Keller Williams. They're the ones who on average outperform, not just in money, although that's a huge one, but outperform in terms of timing. They sell homes faster. They don't sell 1 or 2 homes a year like most average realtors. They sell hundreds and thousands. I mean, these people have been changing lives for the better for years. Gay's been doing this now for a couple plus decades. Why don't you hire someone who has the experience and the proven track record? And here's the other piece that others won't give you: guarantee. She will guarantee to get you out of that house at a price range that you guys agree upon in the time range that you guys agree upon. What else is there to expect from a realtor? And she's just a great person, just a great human being. Pick up the phone and call her at 833-301-SOLD, 833-301-SOLD. Or you can go to gayhasthebuyers.com. That's gay, G-A-Y-E, hasthebuyers.com, gayhasthebuyers.com. Some more texts that are coming in here. Leadership in the state GOP doesn't inspire confidence, so no money from this gal. I did a recurring monthly donation under KBB. Well, there's that. And I imagine, though, there are those who give now because Dave's at the helm. It doesn't sound like much at the moment, but maybe we're picking up some momentum. I'm still anxious to hear, and I should have asked Sherrie. Dang it. Maybe off air we'll reach out to her again. What the treasurer's report revealed about how much money we have, because that's a big deal. We talk to Dave about it every time he's on. It's just interesting. If it's a reflection of support or trust or confidence, then it really, really means something here that we're in this, especially after we found out that we've committed, what was it, $50,000 as an upfront retainer for the lawsuit to get us out of the open primaries. And we think it's going to cost up to $250,000. That's $250,000. Folks, that is more than double what you would spend to defend yourself from a first-degree murder charge. I'm just saying, that's a ton of money. $250,000 is a ton. Hey, listen, we're going to cut away for a break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by our buddies at Alpine Planning, going to make us super smart here. Stick around. It's George Brauchler on The George Show. You're listening to 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Time to get smarter by our good friends at Alpine Planning. If it's Monday, it must be Amy Duncan. Amy, how are you?
Not bad, George. I feel like I'm in the Titanic. I'm steaming towards South Dakota in the RV.
Are you really?
Gets in the way of calling into KNUS, let me tell you.
God bless you for doing it. And when you get, could you report back whether or not they've finished Crazy Horse? Because
yeah, right.
it doesn't seem like it's ever going to be done.
That's the running joke. I'm like my one little family vacation, and we're going the same time as Sturgis. So, you know, my daughter's going to get a nice culture shock, right?
And maybe a tattoo. So, who knows?
Yeah, you never know. Well, my friend, I'll dive right in. We're looking at a nice little bounce on this Monday morning. The Dow's up about 240. S&P positive by 19, up almost 0.5%. NASDAQ also positive. This is coming off a pretty choppy week last week where it was really, you know, all about the jobs market, the labor market. We finished the week in the red where the S&P was down 2.5%, the worst week since March. And of course, Friday, we saw Fitch downgrade the U.S. debt. I know you detailed that with Brian on Friday. So anyway, we're kicking off more earnings this week. As of now, 84% of the S&P 500 companies that have reported have beat expectations.
Oh, that's good.
That kind of goes back to our long thesis of really ever since the pandemic, expectations are so low that one nice bounce for the market is that it's not difficult for these companies to beat expectations. So what are we watching this week, my friend? Friday will be the big July consumer price index report. That'll be an important indicator as we see what the Fed does throughout the summer. And then not least, as we come into September, September is traditionally the weakest month for U.S. stock market. So we'll keep our eye on things. As always, we're standing by for our clients. And I'm going to wrap up this morning, sir, and get off the clock and wish you a great week.
Normally, I would spring a big, unexpected question on you, but you are on vacation. I'm going to let you get back to it. Alpine Planning Group is a comprehensive financial planning firm. They're committed to improving your long-term financial success. Investing, it's a matter of trust, and they're prepared to earn yours. Call them today, 303-843-0918, 303-843-0918. Amy, enjoy it.
Hey, appreciate you, George.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Woodbury Financial Services, Inc., member FINRA SIPC and registered investment advisor. Alpine Planning Group and Woodbury Financial Services, Inc. are not affiliated entities. 14 West Dry Creek Circle, Littleton, Colorado, 80120.
Going right back to the phone lines. Bill from Parker, you're on 710. Bill, what do you think?
Morning, George. Yeah, I think you're misconstruing ranked choice voting. Let's look at the Kirkmeyer-Caraveo race. If I were in that district, I might have been tempted to look at this libertarian. And what I probably would have said is, if I liked the libertarian best, I probably would have said, you know, it's a close race. I don't want to take a chance of throwing it to Caraveo. I'm going to vote for Kirkmeyer, even though I really don't want her. I want this libertarian. And I'm thinking a lot of people may have done that. The 4% that libertarian got under ranked choice voting may have been 6, 8, 10%. Who knows? Because under ranked choice, I could vote for the libertarian. If Kirkmeyer wins with 50%, my vote wouldn't have changed that. If Caraveo wins with 50% or more, my vote would not have changed that. But if neither one wins with 50%, which is what happened, ranked choice would have probably moved most of those libertarians, including my vote, over to Kirkmeyer. So it allows me to vote for somebody who you might call more extreme and feel like I'm not screwing myself in the long run. Think of it like this way.
For every good story like that, though, for CD8, and I totally get the logic of what you're saying, Bill. It makes a lot of sense to me. But for every one of those stories, there's going to be another story where it's going to pit a Republican against a Democrat somewhere in the state, and the Republican would win a plurality, if not the majority. And it ends up making these folks, I think the goal of this is to say, well, we're going to have less toxic politics if you have to be more likable to a broader base. Do you know what I mean? Like, well, it's going to make you moderate your policies.
Right. If there were a green candidate, say, or a socialist candidate or something that would pull from the Democrats, it would be the same thing in reverse. But the point is, you would get to vote for your, quote, extreme person, whichever was extreme, less extreme right, and you wouldn't have to feel like you were screwing yourself. Think of it this way. Suppose you went to your 31 flavor ice cream shop, and they say, okay, you're out and you're in line. You say, okay, fill out this form about the flavor you want. You fill out the form. You get up there, and they say, oh, gee, what do you know, George? Out of the 31 flavors, we're out of this one you want. So goodbye. Better luck next time. Could you imagine? That'd be crazy. They say, no, okay, well, we don't have your first choice. Would you like a second choice? That's what you expect. And it's the same thing with ranked choice voting does that. It's not like you get your perfect choice or nothing at all. You can get your perfect choice, or you can hope to get your second best choice. And if it gets really complicated, your third or fourth best choice.
Yeah,
but the idea is you have.
Yeah, Bill, forgive me, man. We're out of time. I like where you have put us on this conversation. It's thoughtful. I appreciate it. You got me thinking about this thing. I don't know. I think the goal of it is less to give you an additional choice than it is to try to moderate the candidates. I got to keep thinking about this thing. We've got Chris on the line. I promise we'll get to you after the break, Chris. There's a bunch more to talk about throughout the show. We got plenty of time left. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. Welcome back to the halfway point of the Monday, August the 7th show. That's a big birthday for my brother, Eric. He turns 50 today. Unbelievable. Listen, I'm going to be with you until 10 o'clock, and then we go Kirk, Prager, and Gorka in that order until 3. Then Deb Flora, live and local, right here in this very chair. And then Stephen Tubbs 4 to 7. The Prager event, as you know, August 30th at the View House in Centennial, conveniently located off of I-25. It's a big deal. It's the third one in a row. They're going to let me run my mouth on that stage. I have no idea why or what they expect from me. It feels like this is another one of those, let's just throw a match on this thing and see what happens, see if it catches fire. So be a witness to it. Also, you get a chance to actually hear the smart Dennis Prager talk, and in a very relaxed atmosphere, intimate atmosphere, cigars, alcohol, meat products. What can possibly be better than all of that? Check it out at 710knus.com. Listen, there's I want to get to Chris and others at 303-696-1971. A conversation we started that I hadn't expected. We were talking about the vote on Saturday that ended up Amendment 7. That was the Bonniwell Amendment to really change the way votes would be counted to reach the 75% threshold necessary to get the Republican Party out of the open primary. And we got onto the topic of other things covered, and that was the money piece. The money thing matters. By the way, someone texted, did you get your little bro an AARP membership as a gift? Thank you for the genius idea. That's coming. And since I know he's not listening to the show, that right there is going to be well worth it come this Friday when he's back in town. Happy birthday, old man.
You need to send him an entire care package.
Is there such a thing?
Oh, no. Just create a care package. Give him an ARP membership.
Yeah.
You should get him a package of Depends.
Again?
Yeah. You should get him one of those grabber hands where you can reach in and grab things up off the ground.
Wonderful.
Yeah, you should think about all those things that,
that's
that you
right.
can get for him. Yeah.
You know what? There's probably I'm going to have to think about that. I know that's a dark one.
There's got to be a store. Yeah.
Got to be a store with the tombstone gifts or something like that.
Yeah.
I think that'll travel well back to Minnesota with him. Here's an eyewitness account before we get to Chris from Denver from the meeting on Saturday. I'm going to read it to you. I was there. The treasurer is inept. I wish I would have timed it, but he spent forever. I mean, it seems like 45 minutes. It may have been 15. He spent most of his time bashing the previous administration and alleging misuse of funds. He said he would tell us individually who basically embezzled, but he wouldn't announce that person's name to the whole group because he didn't want to get sued. Hard to get sued when truth is a defense, right? Like you can be sued for anything, but truth is a defense to that stuff. One chairwoman went to the microphone and asked for a clear amount of what exactly has been raised since Williams took the home. And I think it's probably meant the helm. And the treasurer said he did not have that amount on hand or off the top of his head. What? Well, you're going to a state central committee meeting. How in God's name do you not have that dollar amount? And it says, but we can check the FEC reports to get that amount. Hang on. You're the treasurer giving a report to the state central committee, and your advice to those who want to know how much money we have, you're the treasurer, is go check it out on the federal website. Anyway, and then it goes on. I did hear at some point that the state party has about, wait for it, $6,000 cash on hand after all of the alleged bills are paid from the alleged money we supposedly have in all the accounts. Yikes. Our buddy Jones says they cannot get the previous history. This is about the treasurer. They found 2 other accounts not revealed until April. Well, hell, that's only 3 or 4 months ago. Cannot get the books to match the FEC reports, and there hasn't been an audit since Ryan Call. KBB did not pay rent for several months in the spring of 2021. There were bonuses paid and health insurance bought, dental insurance for half year after the employees were gone. The books are a mess. They could not give an exact number. Talk to treasurer. He had slides. The best part of the meeting was the number of younger people engaged, and you might think the paper ballots was a problem, but it was a large number of people engaged, and they felt part of the process, formation of community. Listen, I like that too, but you're talking about, according to Sherrie, there were only 300 plus votes cast, and more than half of those were by proxy, and we had troubles counting the ballots with 300? What the hell are we going to do when we're talking about the state of Colorado? I don't know. Stephanie Luck's speech was inspiring, and the roll call vote was reveling or revealing, I'm not sure. A county chair that ran on support of getting rid of 108 voted no, and some people voted present because they could not understand what would replace the open primary. That would have been counted as a yes, by the way, if they'd have voted present under the Bonniwell rule. Anyway, very interesting about the treasurer stuff. I mean, either there's some kind of crazy corruption going on here, or 4 or 5 months into a change in leadership at the party, we don't know how much money there is. Don't have that money off the top of our head. That is bizarre. There's got to be some truth to get to at the bottom of that. But let's go to the phone lines right now. Chris from Denver, you're on 710 KNUS. Chris, what do you think?
Good morning. If we make it to the election, I'm Trump or DeSantis.
Yeah.
But I don't think we're going to make it with everything going on. I mean, we got the border, we got inflation, we got the gas prices skyrocketing, we got the climate change BS push. We got, and what really scares me is that the nation's AAA rating going to AA plus, and nobody's talking about it. For 4 straight days since that's happened, the stock market has dropped an average of 300 points. It's going to continue to drop because people don't realize how important that is as far as investments, as far as interest. That's like you going from an 850 to a 700 overnight. I mean, it affects. And
when you say, I don't think we're going to make it, what do you picture happening that would keep us from making it?
First of all, I picture banks closing. The banks can't. I'm looking at all the banks that have already closed. And when you put that AAA, down to AA, plus that causes a lot of that interest to become due. Or there's a lot of things going on that I haven't really read, but years ago, I heard that if the nation ever lost the AAA rating, that would be the straw that broke the camel's back. And I think the banks are going to shut. I know this sounds like a conspiracy, but I think the banks are going to shut. I think.
When do you think this happens?
I hope it doesn't happen for a while. But look at we haven't even began to see the $7 million effect or 7 million person effect from the illegals coming over the border. We haven't even started seeing
I'm looking right
yet.
now at this, Chris, and the Dow is up 287 points. I realize we're still early in the trading day, but it's up 287 points. The S&P is up 21 points. NASDAQ up 6.32. So at least in the early trading, things seem to be trending the right way. I get the concern. So let's say the banks close. Then what happens?
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Everybody's going to panic. When they open, people are going to. There's going to be lines to take your money out, because the way people panic.
Yeah,
they're going to limit to what you can take out, and I think that's going to open up the digital dollar. Oh, hey, look, you know what? We come to the rescue. You're going to have to go with the digital dollar, and I know you've read about the digital dollar.
Yeah, I have. Yeah, I have my own worries about moving to a digital dollar. That's for sure.
Oh God, you do that, and they can monitor it. They can refuse if you go in, let's say, to buy a new car. They can refuse that. They can refuse that payment. They can refuse anything on that digital dollar. Yeah, and I think that's going to open up for that digital dollar, and then hold on to your butt. Because I'll tell you what, and I know it all sounds like a conspiracy, but it's all heading that way. They're pushing for that.
Who's they?
The Dems. I mean, look at what they're doing with climate. I mean, that climate is such bull. But it's control. It is control, and that's what they want. That's what. Look at them. Look at just here in Denver, the little Tabor tax with the governor. I mean, he did everything to get that taken away from us. And then when he couldn't, he says, "Hey, look, I'm giving you your money back. Hey, I'm great." And then the next year, he's looking to put it as far as interest rates on the house, or payments on the house. He's going to take that. And when they see money, when they see power, they're going to take it. They don't care what it takes to get it.
Yeah, interesting. Chris, I hope you're wrong. And I think you hope you're wrong too.
Me too.
I hope you're wrong too. It feels like it could happen, but I don't think it's likely to happen. I don't see that.
I hope not.
And part of it is the folks that I trust have not yet sounded the alarm of, hey, the sky is falling. When that happens, then someone texted in here, Chris, this may help you a little bit. It says AAA rating was lost in 2011 and we didn't fall apart. So I don't know that
Yeah,
to
but
be
we
true, but it sounds good.
We didn't have everything going against us like we do now. I mean, in 2011, it wasn't as bad.
Well, I don't know.
mean, we didn't have
still had
7
a
million
pretty,
coming
we
over the
still had a
border.
pretty porous border.
Yeah. I hope I'm wrong. I do.
I hope you're wrong too, man. Hey, listen, thanks for the phone call, Chris. I appreciate you hanging on hold. 303-696-1971 is the number. Sticking with the phone lines. Sean from Lakewood. You're on 710. Sean, what do you think? Hello, Sean. Sean? Uh-oh. Sean, listen, I'm going to put you on hold. We're going to see if we can get you back, my man. But right now, stuck there. Sean, are you there? Sean of the sheep. Sean of the dead. Nope. Sean is going to be back on hold. Chris, I feel like he sounds super concerned. He's aware of some things going on, but the sky is falling thing, I'm not there yet. What's that? No, Sean. Sean's gone the way of the dodo. Sean wanted to talk about misrepresentations about what took place at the Saturday meeting. Hey, if you're an eyewitness to it, I'd love to hear from you. We've had some of the texts that come in here. I'm super concerned about the money thing and the fact that we are now 5 months into a change in leadership and nobody can tell us how much cash on hand we have. And yet we were able to get some money put away, I think through a separate fund, but to fund at least $25,000 of the initial $50,000 for the lawsuit, which it sounds like, according to Sherrie, everybody supports the idea of that. That'll be interesting. If we really only had $6,000 as a state party right now, OMG, because I think if you remember, Dave had come on and said, we're hoping to be at, what was the number he said? $250,000 or $200,000, something like that. That's real money. But again, that's for an entire state of Colorado. That's not enough. The days of the party having jillions of dollars, I think those have all gone. 303-696-1971 is the number. I should have asked Chris this because I wanted to sort of get into this topic right here. But over the weekend, there was a development since the Don has been charged with, indicted on his third case. There is now something developing that it's going to require his legal team to respond by 5 p.m. Eastern time today. And the gist of it is this. Donald Trump came out and tweeted out something. I'm sorry, truthed out something, because I guess he still doesn't X, that he says, if you come after me, I'm going to come after you. And that was broadly interpreted by the special prosecutor, Jack Smith, and others as some sort of a veiled threat. They went to the judge in the DC case, at least the one that's handling the case for now. And they said, hey, whoa, we need a protection order against this guy, telling him that he cannot leak information from this case, amongst other things. He cannot leak information from this case to the public through social media or really any other means. The defense team initially shows up, and I think it was, what's that guy's name? Lauro? Yeah, I think it's Lauro. Came out and said a couple things. One was, hey, this is unnecessary, but oh, by the way, we need a lot of time to respond to this. Judge, can you please delay our response to this until Thursday? The judge said, no, I'm not going to delay this at all. We're going to get you to give a response by Monday, which tells me she's probably aiming to get an order out tomorrow. That's my best guess. She's already laid the groundwork. Her team, her staff have probably, and maybe she herself have probably done some research and some initial drafting. I would guess that they would. I'm not even sure they're going to take argument on it or not. If they do, that'll delay it a little bit. But she denied the Trump team's request to delay the filing of the appropriate pleadings. And then Donald Trump went after her a bit on truth as well. The other thing that comes out is Lauro ends up saying, hey, listen, the American people deserve to know what the evidence is here. They deserve to know what the information is here. And that got me thinking, and I talked to Billy about this off air. I'm like, yeah, I agree with that. And they will during the trial. Like, we just don't air the evidence and try the case in the media. We don't try the case in the public forum. They get tried in a courtroom. And there's good reasons for the prosecution to be concerned about what Trump would reveal. And that is because this dude just says and does things. There's no filter. There's no person he goes and checks with. I am certain he's not running it by his attorneys and saying, hey, what y'all think? He just put stuff out there. And so what you could end up getting out there is stuff that would otherwise be precluded from the jury for a whole bunch of reasons. And confidentiality may be part of it, but I think another part of it might be it's irrelevant, it's untrustworthy, it's a whole bunch of different things. And so for any defendant to vomit up into the social media universe, here's the evidence in the case, or here's what we just discovered, that's a problem. That's a problem for the truth-seeking function of the jury. And remember, in a trial, the fact finder is the jury, not you and me, not the judge. It's the jury. The jury is the fact finder. So rather than taint that pool, I mean, it's already going to be damn near impossible to seat a jury that could arguably be fair in this case, especially in DC, to have dumped out evidence into social media. If a prosecutor did it, they could have their case punted, lose their license to practice law. So the idea that a defendant can do it, I get it. I get why they want the protection order. That makes a lot of sense to me. And then it started getting me to wonder too. First off, I'd love to know from you. Do you disagree with that? Like, I don't want to know any of the evidence in the case beyond what we already know through the unsealed indictment. I don't want to have this case tried in the media. I do want it tried in a courtroom. But let me say this with a caveat too. This thing's got to be televised. This thing's got to be televised. I heard, what's his name? Turley, wicked smart guy say, no, it wasn't Turley. It wasn't Turley. It was, what's his name? The former U.S. attorney for the Southern District of New York, or he worked in the office, Andrew McCarthy. Andrew McCarthy, I heard him on a Sunday show say, I don't want this thing to have TV cameras in the courtroom because I think you get a cleaner trial without it. What? He said, I don't know. He says a lot of jurors won't want to participate if there's cameras in the courtroom. Well, that's dumb because the cameras will never, ever show the jurors. We did a whole 6-7 month trial in the Aurora case. Not a single juror was ever exposed on camera. And frankly, the one media person who reported the name of a prospective juror got banned from the building. The judge said, bye now, don't come back. Don't send anybody else from your media outlet. You are banned. That's the answer. But I disagree with the idea that we don't want cameras in there. This is the most consequential criminal case maybe in the history of the Department of Justice in terms of the ramifications, the uniqueness of it, what an unprecedented nature historically. This may be the biggest case in the history of the DOJ, and Jack Smith has signed him up for that. That needs to be televised in front of the planet Earth, certainly America. Now, the feds, they don't do that. They don't put cameras in the courtroom. I'm telling you, Congress ought to figure out a way right now to say, we're going to change the law. And I know Alito has said, hey, you can't tell us what to do. Nonsense. They can tie this to funding. You don't do this, maybe we cut your budget. I know that doesn't seem fair, and I don't want them to do it over anything substantive like a ruling on a case. But when it comes to cameras in the courtroom, I don't know why we don't have them in every damn courtroom in the state of Colorado right now. We do a bunch of stuff over WebEx right now. We can improve upon that. But for this trial, it's got to be there. I don't know. 303-696-1971 is the number. Listen, Jim, Sean's back. We got one line open. Give us a call. Continue this conversation. I'm also going to ask you a question here. Should Donald Trump testify? Should Donald Trump testify in this case? Got to tell you about our buddy Mitch Flory before we cut away. He's a superstar with a company called The Art of Granite. 4 little words that if you string them together, make a fantastic website called theartofgranite.com. But I'm going to concede something to you. It's a little misleading. It's a little misleading because this guy deals in far more than granite. This is a guy who does wizardry with marble, with quartz, the man-mades, the God-made stuff, in improving your kitchen and your bathroom. Your countertops are the thing that's going to catch the eye. This guy is good at catching the eye with these materials. And what his business rises and falls on, a couple things. Customer service is number one. I've never met anybody who's used Mitch who hasn't said, love Mitch Floria and his team. 2, he gets wholesale prices and passes them on to you. Who else does that in this day and age? This is a guy who is as good with a handshake as he is with anything else. He delivers time in and time out. Give him a call on the cell phone that rings in his pocket, 303-386-5919, 303 386-5919. If you're going somewhere else, you're robbing yourself of a great deal and great customer service. Check them out at theartofgranite.com. That's theartofgranite.com. Jim, Sean, and the text. We'll get back to you in just a moment. It's George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Jim has fallen off the line. I presume he's in the middle of a traffic stop. If that's true, Jim, when it's done, please give us a call after you've spoken with your attorney. In the meantime, we're going right to Sean from Lakewood. Sean's back. Sean, how are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. Thank you very much. Were you able to attend that meeting on Saturday?
Oh, no chance. I'm not a member. I'm not a Central Committee member anymore.
Well, we had guests. Any registered Republican was perfectly welcome.
I'll be honest with you. I was paddleboarding.
It was a beautiful day to do that.
It was. So what did you see there?
What I saw was an attempt to correct a huge problem where a Republican right now nominee for the party can be in a general election. And under our current system, if he petitions on, he can become our nominee and never get a single Republican vote. And I thought that needed to change.
That's interesting. I don't know if the math works out that could have ever happened so far. Have you ever seen that more unaffiliated votes were cast in a Republican primary than Republican votes?
Well, what I'm looking at is 47% of our population are unaffiliated, 26% are Republican. And when I look at that math, it's very easy to understand how the 47% could take away the votes of the 26%. So the key I was looking at was the misinformation and, bluntly, the democratic tactics that were used by people to shut this whole process of changing it so that Republicans elect candidates that represent Republicans. I mean, I think that's fair. A good example here is the fact that when 108 was put in place, the will of the entire population came in and told the Republicans in our private party
and the Dems who were initially opposed to 108 as well.
Well, but you'll notice that since they don't happen to have many, if any, primary contests, if I'm an unaffiliated voter who leans Democrat, there's no reason for me to worry about voting in their primary because I never have a choice. The only place I have a choice is the Republican side, and they have been playing since 2016 heavily in our elections. They have spent hundreds of thousands of dollars to influence who our candidates are.
But Sean, I'd say they do have primaries. It's just when they're incumbents, they don't have primaries, and they've been incumbents for so long, we lose sight of it. So, for instance, in 2018, if you remember, in the Democrat side of things, there was a huge knockdown, drag-out between Phil Weiser and Crazy Joe Salazar, and they went to a recount. And after like day 2 or 3 after that, Salazar finally withdrew his challenge to it and acknowledged that Phil had won. So that's not accurate. The governor's race was another one. Big-time primary that took place. It's just when they win and they're doing incumbent stuff, nobody ever challenges the incumbents on the left. You're right about that.
Well, George, actually, I don't know the number. I wonder how many primaries were on the last 2 in 2022 and in 2020. How many choices did the Democrats have? Almost none. And however that happened.
Except you had incumbents. That's why you had incumbents.
But even against Republicans, where we have incumbents, we still have primary challenges, and they step in and influence. Now,
yeah, but
the other thing that I was concerned about
was their fault that we have primaries.
No, but under the current system, under the open system, they are inappropriately interfering with our actual choices by our Republican members. Every single person that votes that's not a member of our party disenfranchises a Republican voter. The other thing that I get a kick out of is
how so?
It counters and takes away the power of our Republican vote.
It may water down the Republican vote, but it doesn't take away the vote.
George, and my statement stands, and it's never been refuted. You can elect a candidate. You can put one on the general ballot that no Republicans ever voted on. Now, you may say, well, that's unusual, but you can definitely change the character. And definitely those people, many of the people that are voting in our primaries, watering down our votes.
I'd love to see the numbers on how it's turned out. I'd love to see how, practically speaking, it turns out. It's an interesting point. I don't even think we've come close to unaffiliateds outweighing Republicans voting in any primary. But let me ask you this, Sean, what about the idea that unaffiliateds back in Proposition 108, they're the ones that probably voted to have it because they want to have a say in these primaries, that their point would be, I'm paying for this election. I should get to participate in it.
The very simple response is, if you want to participate in the primary, if you want your voice to be heard, join the party that represents your views, and you're there. There's nothing, and with our same-day registration and changes, you can change parties. You can become a Republican in a snap. There's nothing to stop you.
Yeah,
from
but you're
expressing your views.
compelling them to pay for an election and telling them, if you want to participate in this election that we're forcing you to pay for, you're forced to join a party to do it. What about the idea that they're like, I shouldn't be forced to do any damn thing to participate in an election I'm footing the bill for? I mean, that's compelling to me.
Well, here's the thing that I find even more outrageous. Under the current system that was put in place very cleverly by Kent Theory and others,
yeah,
I'll call them the pay-to-play big donors, what they did is they said, Republicans, we're going to give you an illusion of choice. If you can get 75% of the entire state central committee, you can opt out. And you say, well, wow, there's no place else in any legislative situation that you require 75% of anything. But it's not just 75% of those present and voting, it's 75% of everybody. So if we have 74.9%, one less than 75% of the voters show up, 100% of us vote to opt out, we lose. That's the current status. Now,
yeah, I get it. I think that
vote?
bar sucks. I think that bar sucks.
Okay. Now, here's the other thing. Who compels votes? Under the current system, if I don't cast a vote, it's counted automatically no.
I don't believe that. I don't believe that's accurate. It's not counted as a no. It's just not counted as a yes. That's the difference. It's not counted as a yes.
As a no. George, you're an attorney. You're a DA. You have the ability to check the law. The law specifically says 75% have to vote yes. Now,
well, hold on. You just said exactly what I said, which is it's not a yes vote. It's not that it's a no vote. It's not a yes. And the law says you have to get 75% yes.
Of the entire body. So
yeah, I get it. But if someone doesn't show up or they abstain.
This is part of the lie. This is absolutely part of the lie that's been pursued. And I understand. I talked to a number of people, quite a few people there, about that particular situation. The only way we can change the mandatory vote of an uncast vote from no was to put the Amendment 7 we had in.
No, that's not true. There's a lawsuit to do it. There's also, you could put something on the ballot, like a Proposition 108, to change it. That's not the only path that was available.
It's the only path for Republicans who want to have Republican control, who represents the party, to make it. This comment that you made, that it's not a no vote, I want you to go into the statute, look at it, and come back, and we can discuss the specifics. Because I've been through this extensively. The key thing I'm looking at, and what we were doing, we were switching it from having control of how our uncast ballots were counted, okay? Now, even if that had passed, we still have to get 75%, an unreasonable and unconscionably high amount, which you agree on.
Yeah.
So the point that I'm making, and the point that I think we were attempting to make, now I'm very encouraged. I was disappointed we didn't get it passed. I didn't expect to see it happen in the first place because we have too many people committed to having complete control through petitioning and through the ability to elect someone and never have a Republican vote. They don't have to worry about what Republican values are. They don't have to worry about what Republican issues are. They can avoid that with money and that petition process. Okay? Now, with regard to that whole issue, in 2021 in Pueblo, when we unanimously said we want to close the primary, I mean, that's a will of the party. You never get all Republicans to vote unanimously on everything, but they did there. So we have a unanimous agreement to close it, to have Republicans vote for Republicans only. That's the will of the party, and that's being thwarted. In that meeting, because we didn't have an alternative,
the will of how much of the party? How much of the will of the party?
100% of the voters in that Pueblo Central Committee meeting.
Okay, very small group, but I get it.
But it's a very small representative group that represents the entire Republican community. Now, if you, and nobody's argued that point. In that meeting, we couldn't get 75%. We had roughly 36% or something in that neighborhood that voted to opt out only because there was an agreement on what we were going to replace it with. And the mistake was made that they didn't make that clear. In fact, that's a problem that we still have. We still have to make it clear what it is we're going to replace it with. But here's what's really nefarious about what happened this weekend. Of the voters that were there, 180 were there by proxy. There are no limit on proxies you can carry.
It's a lot.
Okay. So roughly 49 or 50% of the people did not hear any of the arguments, did not hear the discussion, did not have an opportunity to get educated. And they voted. Now, despite that, 55% plus of the group voted yes. And I can make a strong inference that all of those people are going to vote to opt out. So we're much closer than we were before. And we still haven't said, here's exactly what we're going to do. But here's what really concerned me. The tactics that were used against this amendment were absolutely scripted by the Democrats. A few days before that actual vote on Saturday, we received a one-page cardboard full-color smear that didn't talk about any of the facts, that basically was just designed to play on the emotions, to ignore everything that I've just discussed with you.
It sounds like it's information getting to people who would be vote. Hey, Sean, hang on one sec, because you asked me to do it. I'm going to do it right here on the radio. I looked it up. It's called Colorado Revised Statute 1, which covers all the election stuff.
Correct.
4702. Nominations of candidates for general election by convention. Here's the exact language. Notwithstanding any other provision of law, a political party may choose to change from the nomination of candidates by primary election to the nomination of candidates by assembly or convention for all offices, including, but not limited to, United States Senator, Representative in Congress, all elective state, district, and county officers and members of the General Assembly, if at least 3/4 of the total membership of the party state central committee votes to use the assembly or convention nomination process. That's it, brother. There's not a single thing that says if you hold on. I did not. I proved my point because you said all abstentions are counted as no. That's not the language of this. You need to achieve affirmative votes.
75%.
Yeah,
that's right. You have to get 75% of the affirmative votes of the entire state central committee.
That's right.
Okay. If you don't have 75% yes votes.
That's correct.
Absolute yes. Now, the only way you can do that, if I don't cast a vote, it's not a yes vote.
That's right. So you don't have to treat it as a no. It's just not a yes. You didn't get it to where it needed to be.
It's absolutely a yes. If it's not yes, it's automatically no.
Man, it's not a binary
choice to remove.
Sean, there are people texting in here.
Choice.
No, that's not true. There are people that are texting in here that were at this thing on Saturday with you that said, hey, some people didn't vote. They voted present because they didn't understand what the hell the ramifications would be if we withdrew from the primary. So you're going to say, I don't care if you were confused. If you're confused and vote present, we treat you as an affirmative vote. That's what you supported?
No. Here are the two other lies that occurred here. This particular amendment applied to one single instance of law.
I know, but in the context of that, Sean, wouldn't somebody who abstained be counted as a yes?
The vote that we had today was on bylaws, right? Or yesterday, on Saturday.
Yeah, Saturday.
That was strictly on bylaws. Yeah. Entirely different set of laws, entirely different set of rules, entirely different application. You don't have to have the entire state central committee counted in any of those votes. In that area, if you don't cast a vote, it's neither a yes or a no. You take 3/4 of those present and voting.
Buddy, I totally get that. What I'm saying is, if the Bonniewell Amendment passed, you would have treated those exact same people at the September meeting as a yes vote.
Only for one single
So what,
issue,
man? That's just not America.
Well, then why is forcing them to vote no, which is what the current law is?
It doesn't force them to vote no, man. You can keep saying it. You asked me to read the law. I read it to you, Sean. You're just wrong. It doesn't say that. It requires you to get affirmative votes.
How about this? Okay. You call up the Secretary of State and you ask Jenna Griswold, and she's going to make the decision.
Well, she'll come on the radio, of course.
We know about Jenna. That's great. And I'm happy.
She will
and in
never
fact,
come on the
I
radio.
would volunteer to debate Jenna Griswold. The issue is very simple. Jenna,
What does that
if
have
we
to do
send-
with the statement?
if we send 74.9% of the votes to you, okay, that are yes, and we have 20% that are not cast, have we met the requirement? She's going to say no.
That's right.
Because 75%
That's right.
did not say yes.
That's right. That's exactly right.
That's
That's
right.
not
So
the
an
same
uncast
thing,
vote-
Sean, as saying it's a no
An
vote.
uncast vote is a no vote.
That is
No.
not true.
The
That is just
example
not
I
true,
just
man. You're
gave
making
you-
it up, buddy. You're making, and Sean, I got to go. I took you long and really long, and I appreciate the call. That's just false, man. I read you the law. You have to get, here's what it says right here. At least 3/4 of the total membership of the party state central committee votes to use the blah, 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 votes in favor of it. Not voting against it, voting in favor of it, which means if you abstain, you're not voting for it. It may have the practical consequence of a no vote, but it is not forcing you to vote no. That is fake. That's not accurate. Got Jim on the line. Sean's line is open, 303-696-1971. Got to cut away for a long overdue break. George Brauchler on the George Show, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Want to honor the callers. Let's go to Jim from Denver. You're on 710. What do you think, Jim?
Hey, good morning. Listen, this morning, and while I was on hold, I dropped off I had to fire my accountant. And let me just say this first. I'm registered as an unaffiliated, but my accountant, he's a Republican. And it's very clear that Republicans don't know how to count. Simple, basic counting, okay?
Jim,
And that's, I fired him, okay? So
hold on, just based on his affiliation? Because you're like Republicans.
Absolutely. Republicans don't know how to count. You know, there was an election back in, I don't know when, where somebody came out and said, Republican math, these people don't know how to count. And it stuck in my head, and I think this is a little bit of Republican math. Now, here's the thing about the treasurer. What I'm hearing about the treasurer is he knows exactly how much money they have in the account, but he's refusing to tell anybody because the party is defunct. They don't have enough money to make rent in their offices this month. Donald Trump has destroyed the Republican Party, and let's all admit it. He's taken their money, it's gone, and it's over. The Republican Party is over. It's Donald Trump's party. We might as well call it the Trump Party from this moment forward.
Jim, there's some truth to what you say. I know there's probably a lot of people out there who are like, wow, Jim's a crazy man. But I think we've stopped being the Republican Party and we're just the Trump Party right now, because it feels like there isn't anything that can happen that will drive a wedge between the majority of Republican voters and Donald Trump. And I imagine a lot of that is because of the perceived bias in the media and the perceived bias in the government, and the system's all against him. So we're going to rally around this guy. And we've gotten to the point where we just stop caring whether or not there's anything factual or accurate about the accusations made against him. And I just can't get there. I can't put myself there.
Well, where's the money? Why is Donald Trump bringing in more money with these
indictments,
crimes?
Yeah,
right?
I don't know, man.
And now the Republican Conservative Party is defunct, and your treasurer won't tell you because it's got to be a secret because he wants the vote to go his way last Saturday.
Yeah, Jim, got to end it there, man. Thanks as always for the phone call. I'm sure people are like, that's crazy. Listen, when we come back, I want to talk to you a little bit more about the stuff that's going on here with the Donald Trump indictment. Should this guy testify? Should there be cameras in the courtroom? 710 KNUS. We got 1 hour left. It's 9 a.m. right here on the Monday show. It's the 7th of August. It's Eric's birthday. Happy 50th to you, brother. George Brauchler with you here on the George Show. The 3 hours have just whizzed by. I told you at the end of the last hour I wanted to get into a topic here that is intriguing to me from the standpoint of someone who's been a prosecutor. I've been also a criminal defense attorney, folks, so it's not just one-sided with me on this. A couple things have taken place over the weekend. The Don shot out some truth social media stuff saying, if you come after me, I'm going to go after you. That and some other things caused the prosecutor, Jack Smith, the special counsel, in this case, to ask for a protection order from the judge that would bar the president, amongst other things, from releasing information from discovery. That's the information that the prosecution provides to the defense and vice versa, for purposes of preparing for trial, to release that to the public outside the context of the courtroom. His defense attorneys initially said, hey, we need so much more time to respond. We can't do it by Monday. Can we have till Thursday? Judge says no. Then the attorney in the case, and I can't remember which talking show this was, it could have been Fox, where he said, hey, listen, I think that the public deserves to know the evidence in the case. That's true, they do, but not bit by bit, not handpicked by one of the parties to the case in advance of the trial. It's got to be in the context of the trial. Some of the evidence will be inadmissible. Some of the evidence, frankly, isn't relevant. Some of it isn't trustworthy. So it's important that this all, in my opinion, be revealed to the fact finder, which isn't you or I, to the jury. But the broader point that he makes is one that the public needs to be able to consume this evidence as the jury does as well, through, in my opinion, through cameras in the courtroom. Absolutely correct. And yet we don't have anything like that on the books. Now, there was a bill that Richard Durbin, Dick Durbin, senior senator from a state called Illinois. I've been told the S is silent. It's called Senate Bill 858, and it came out in this most recent Congress, and it says the bill would require the Supreme Court to permit television coverage of all open sessions of the court unless it decides by majority vote that allowing such coverage in a particular case would violate the due process rights of any of the parties involved. Yeah, I appreciate that. I like that, but I'll be honest with you. I don't think I want to care what the majority of the Supreme Court thinks about whether there should be cameras in the courtroom. I'm trying to figure out how the due process rights of anyone involved can be somehow violated or infringed upon by simply televising oral arguments. But that's at a bigger level. At the trial level, I do want to empower judges to say, hey, I'm going to keep this part from the jury, or I'm going to keep this part from the public. I'll give you a perfect example during the Aurora Theater case. By the way, ironic that or coincidental at best, 8 years ago today is when we got back the final verdict to the jury, when Judge Samora took the bench shortly after, I want to say 2 or 3 p.m., 8 years ago today, and it was a Friday, and announced, we, the jury, cannot unanimously, blah, 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 all the rest of the words, and we found out by an 11-1 vote that dude was going to be allowed to continue to live. Now we know in retrospect it wouldn't have made any difference because the lefties in the legislature got rid of the death penalty, and Polis signed it and then converted everyone on death row to life. So bittersweet day. But 8 years ago today, I would have been in my mid 40s. Are you kidding me? That's a long time ago. But in that case, there were going to be autopsy photos shown. And the judge, using the discretion that he had, said, I'm not going to put that on the monitor that can be seen by the cameras in the courtroom. It's only going to be available to the jurors. Great. I thought that was great. Certain injury photos were never going to be shown to the broader. I think that's great. In this particular case, with the allegations against Donald Trump, I'm not convinced there's any piece of evidence that's going to be exposed to the jury that shouldn't also simultaneously be exposed to the public. What is that? What is that so sensitive piece of information from January the 6th and this conspiracy that we shouldn't be able to see it? So there need to be cameras in the courtroom. I just don't think it's going to happen. The feds never do it. They hold themselves out to be holier than thou and more important and more special than the state. And so while the state has moved that direction, in fact, we have so many court appearances right now through WebEx where you can at least see the parties involved. Even if you're a total stranger, you can log into some court's web feed and be able to at least monitor what goes on in the courtroom. That's how you keep the government in check. That's how you get to keep tabs on it. So we need that. I'm interested to know your thoughts on that. But the bigger question for me is, do you agree with a protection order that would prohibit Trump from piecemealing out hand-picked pieces of evidence to the public through social media? I think the court's inclined to do it. I think the court's going to be inclined to order that he not do it, that no party does it. It could be a broader order than just against the defendant. Here's what's holding up the case. Prosecutor Jack Smith says, I'm ready to give all the discovery that is necessary to prepare for trial. I'm ready to hit send on it right now, but I'm not going to do it if I think it's going to show up in social media and out there in the public before we get into court. As a prosecutor, I totally get that. In fact, even as a defense attorney, I wouldn't want the prosecutor to do that. How in the world can I want to withhold that authority for me to do it? So I think this thing needs to happen. Normally, you don't have to worry about it with the other attorneys because they're bound by the same ethical rules. We'll call them 3.6, and for the prosecutors, 3.8. But defendants are different. They're not governed by those ethical rules. No one can take away their license to practice law. So short of this order, I think it happens. Do you agree with that? Do you agree with the fact that there should be an order here? I do. The other piece, though, and I'm interested to know your thoughts, is do you expect Donald Trump to testify in his own behalf? I do. I don't only think that he will testify on his own behalf. I think he should. And I think we should wonder why the hell he doesn't. Now, I get it, folks. You're going to be like, but George, the Fifth Amendment, it's the right against compelled self-incrimination. He has the same rights as everyone else. I get it. But everything we've done with this case is to call it out as special, unique, historic. I can't imagine a guy who can never be told what to say and when to say it is going to sit there in court and let his attorneys tell him, do not testify on your own behalf. I think he owes it to us to testify. I think we need to hear him say, I didn't believe the things I was being told by the vice president. I didn't believe the things I was being told by these other senior advisors of mine. I was believing these other people. I read this. I read that. That's what I believed. And so the things I was doing wasn't to try to knock off some a valid election. I was trying to protect the integrity of the election. I wanted to slow things down and reverse the things I thought had been done with nefarious intent. And that's what happened. And if you think I'm wrong, you can think I'm wrong, but I'm no criminal for trying to do that. Don't you want to hear President Trump say that? If he doesn't testify, are you just going to say, well, every defendant has a right to remain silent? Guy hasn't remained silent one day in his life. He just has the right to remain silent. Or are you going to be disappointed? I'm going to be disappointed. 303-696-1971. Should Donald Trump testify? And if not, why not? You're not going to tell me he's afraid of that little old prosecutor, Jack Smith, the guy who he thinks is Crazy Jack or whatever his name is. You can't tell me that's it. I don't want to testify because that guy's so crazy and he's smarter than I. There's no one in the courtroom smarter than President Trump. How can he be tied up by a little old prosecutor? I want to see Donald Trump testify because at the end of the day, convicted or acquitted, it needs to be in part based on the words that come out of his mouth under oath. Now, they can throw all these other things, and I think that's true probably of the documents case down in the Mar-a-Lago, Miami case too. This is a guy who needs to use his intellect and his influence up on the stand to look at the jury and tell them, I didn't break the law. I will tell you, I don't know too many defense attorneys that would ever advise their client to testify, ever, because the risk is so bad when it comes to an even moderately trained prosecutor. And this dude, he isn't moderately trained. He is a professional. He's a career prosecutor, and he is ridiculously aggressive. And frankly, if I'm Jack Smith, I take that cross-examination. There's no way I would delegate that to anyone else on my team. That's got to be him. Mano y mano. If Trump doesn't testify, it would, in my mind, cause me to question his guts. It would cause me to question how tough he is. 303-696-1971 is the number. Dean, you're from Denver. You're on 710. What do you think, Dean?
Hey, thanks. Hey, first-time caller. I think you're doing a great job,
Hey, thank
George.
you for saying that.
All right. Hey, this is a little off your
keep
current
going.
topic
Yeah.
here, but I want to go back before the break. You guys were questioning, has Donald Trump destroyed
Jim said
the
that.
Republican
Yeah,
Party?
our
I just want to
unaffiliated
talk
friend
about this
Jim.
for a moment. Yeah, well, if you go back to 2015, there were people warning of exactly that. They claimed that he would destroy the Republican Party, and possibly we would never see another Republican president again. And well, where are we today? I think he has destroyed the party. And as an independent conservative, on one hand, I'm fine with that.
Dean, you got to put it closer to the microphone, man. We're losing you.
Well, I think he basically has destroyed the Republican Party, and as an independent conservative, on one hand, I'm okay with that because I'm okay with the destruction of the Republican Party due to their unwillingness to fight to the death, like the Democrats do. But on the other hand, now, what have I done? Have I cut my own throat?
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I mean, what did you want to see happen? Do you believe this is now just the party of Trump and it's no longer the Republican Party? And are you good with that?
Well, no, you can't be good with that because how will a Republican ever win the presidency again in this condition that we're in today?
I don't know, man. I mean, what do you think about that? Like, why aren't you a member? What caused you to leave the Republican Party?
Their unwillingness to fight to the death the way that the Democrats do.
What does that look like?
Until we finally stand up and fight the way they do, we stand no chance.
But give me an example of what that looks like. What did the Republicans do that you're like, that's not fighting to the death?
The average conservative, I believe, like you and I, just want to go to work. We want to come home. We want to care for our families. Yeah. We don't take the time to get in the streets and get in the schools and get where we need to be and fight.
So what does that mean for us then? I mean, what would cause you to join the party if you're saying you're part of the issue? Like, hey, I'm busy. I just want to go to work. I don't want to get in the trenches and all that. What would bring you back?
What would bring me back is Republicans on Capitol Hill actually fighting the way, for example, a Rand Paul or a Ted Cruz does. I could probably name 5 Republican politicians that actually have the willingness to fight.
What about a Chris Christie?
Chris Christie can drop dead as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but dude's willing to fight.
Okay. So add in this current political situation that we have today, add in simple political demographics, and then top it off with a little bit of corruption and fraud, and I don't see how a Republican can ever win the presidency again.
And you think it's Trump's fault?
No, I don't think it's his fault.
I thought you said he destroyed the Republican Party.
I think it's the Republican Party's fault.
Well, did the Republican Party fail President Trump?
Huh?
Did the Republican Party fail President Trump?
You know, it's a hard one, George. It really is.
I mean, he doesn't get elected without us. No doubt about it. He'll never get elected again without us. So I'm not sure how we failed him.
Are you going to win without him?
I think we could win without him. Yeah, I do. I think we could win without him. In fact, I think there's a couple of different candidates on there that if we were free of Trump, we could defeat Biden. Yeah, I think that's true. But
Well, I
we're
love
not
DeSantis.
going to get to know that because DeSantis isn't going to be the nominee, man. That campaign is struggling to get off its knees, and it's been months.
Who is stronger out there than DeSantis?
Trump. Yeah, that's just it. I'm just saying, with Trump in the way, there's no way DeSantis becomes the nominee.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way to change it.
Oh,
Hey,
well, you know, my dream would be a DeSantis Rand Paul ticket.
I don't think Rand's going to run, and I don't think he wants to be vice president. Rand had that run with Trump back in 2016, and I don't know if you remember the debate. I do, where with it one Trumpian blast, he knocked Rand Paul into irrelevancy. At one point, Rand, they rank ordered everybody on the stage, and Rand was at the end of the stage. He throws a punch at Trump. I can't remember the issue, and Trump's response to him was, "I don't even know why you're up here with us." And with that, Rand Paul's campaign was all over. It never recovered. And it was already struggling.
Okay, George,
Hey.
we're in a terrible place. We really are.
Yeah,
As
I
conservatives, we're in a terrible place
I
right
agree.
now.
I'd love it if we had a conservative who could win the nomination, but we don't. We have Trump instead. Hey, Dean, thanks for the phone call, man. 303-696-1971. Dean's line is open. Someone says here, why are so many men intimidated by Donald Trump? Who's intimidated by him? I think that is crack smoke crazy. If that's directed at me, I'm not intimidated by that fella at all. I'm turned off by that guy as a voter because of just who he is as a person. And I dread the idea that I'm going to be stuck with a ballot where I got to choose between what we have now in the White House, which I do not want, and a guy who's either a convicted felon, a sentenced felon, or what? I mean, man, I don't want to be in that position. How could you want to do that? And to dismiss it as, hey, it's no big deal, it's all politics, that's garbage. I don't believe that either. Some of this is politics. But that case down in Miami, that's not garbage. That's not politics. That's real. This one up here, I don't know. This one feels super political. The Manhattan one feels super political. Looking to see what's her name does down in Georgia. But DeSantis is a liar about what? Chris Christie is a weak sister. He's nothing but a troublemaker fight who himself in the mirror. I know that was probably voice to text. I got caught up there, and you're going to have to clear that thing up. Alexa, our friend Alexa, not a Chris Christie fan. Believe me, in no way am I saying that guy should be president of the United States. I don't believe that. But if the point Dean was making is, I want someone who will fight, no doubt Chris Christie will fight right there. Our buddy Joan Hope Shuppleman is a Trump supporter. She had dinner with Trump July 13th, 2023, and the judge should be recused. Why? Joan, why should the judge be recused? What did the judge do wrong? What's the conflict of interest there? Some more text. These purity people have no idea what is successful in elections. Something and other white office holders went through the petition, not caucus, which is relic. That's probably true too. Another text. Did you forget to say all but 3 of the soccer girls took a knee during the American anthem? No, I read those texts that said all that stuff. So what? We can disagree with those the soccer players who took a knee. I do. I don't think anybody should be taking a knee during the anthem if you're representing the U.S. But does that mean, as the guy who was the past and wants to be the future president, does a little ha-ha when they lose? Really? On behalf of America? Is that the kind of class act that we want to put in that place right there? Ha-ha, Megan Rapinoe. Ha-ha. How mature is that? And by the way, doesn't that just reinforce the only theory that explains every decision Trump has ever made, and that is, it is a me, me, me universe and everything else is secondary? Disprove me. Fight me. Fight me over that. Tell me what that one selfless decision he made was. I did this some months ago. The only answer I could get was, well, he ran for office. That's not selfless. That's not selfless. This guy's looking to have fights everywhere he can with anybody he thinks has wronged him, betrayed him, hasn't been loyal to him. And now we turn on the U.S. women's national team. I'm no fan of their politics. I'm no fan of the kneeling on it. But come on, man. They're on the world stage representing our country, like it or not, and you ha-ha them when they lose? Damn. Says, now Trump Republicans are doing the same thing as Democrats, calling people Trump phobes, saying voters that don't like him are intimidated or scared of him. That's laugh out loud funny. I don't feel intimidated or scared by that guy or anybody in politics, frankly, at this point. Hey, the number 303-696-1971. We've got Evan and a couple other lines lighting up right now. I got to cut away for a break, and I promise I'll get to them. But let me tell you about Daniel J. Kaplish. The J is for justice. Actually, I think it's Joe, but we're going to say the J is for justice. Dan Kaplish has records, and I mean like victories that are unprecedented in Colorado. And that's all I want to tell you as you go out there and think to yourself, I've been hurt. It's someone else's fault. How am I going to get justice? Just listen to these things. Largest verdict against a trucking company in the history of the state of Colorado. And we just had Colorado Day. 140 something years. Nobody's done better against a trucking company than Dan Kaplish. There was 5 back-to-back million-plus dollar verdicts. Who does that? The answer is nobody except Dan Kaplish. Dan and his partner, Babar Waheed, who I've known since he was an intern, tried his first case with him. These guys are proven winners and proven fighters. You talk about Dean saying, hey, I'm looking for someone who's willing to fight. You sign up with Dan. He gets probably so much more from having won those cases and being willing to step back into the arena just because people give up. The insurance companies are like, we get it. We understand. You're going to take us to trial and punch us right in the face. How about we settle for this amount? And you get to make that decision about what to do. Dan's a winner. And if you want a winner to help you get justice from your injury, then you give him a call at 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or check him out at dankaplisslaw.com, Dan Kaplish, Kaplis law.com. Before we cut away, here's something right on Fox right now. The little ticker says, Trump attorney would love to see the trial televised. Me too. How about you? George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Imagine the lifelong impact of a journey to the Holy Land, surrounded by like-minded travelers. Picture yourself stepping foot in iconic locations right out of history. With nationally syndicated radio hosts Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher, you'll gain firsthand understanding of the spiritual and political importance of this vital region.
Hi, it's Mike Gallagher here. I hope you'll join Dennis Prager and me on an amazing journey through Israel in October 2023.
Discover Israel's vibrant culture and why this nation is such a strategic partner for the United States. Join Dennis Prager and Mike Gallagher on this life-enriching Israel tour, October 25th through November 3rd, 2023. For more information, call 855-565-5519 or visit standwithisraeltour.com.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Some of the text before we get to Spencer and Gary. We lost Evan, which bums me out. Evan, if you're listening, give us a call back, 303-696-1971. George, you want to gag on Trump. I don't even know what that means. What about all the leaks that has, this is a text, come out from the Democrats on many issues, especially that leak on the Supreme Court? No gag order on Trump. If he wants to talk about what's going on in the case, so let it be. I imagine they're talking about the leaked Dobbs opinion. Yeah, we never found out who did, but that's what he's saying. I think what he's saying is, hey, we didn't even get to figure out what that leak is. Unfortunately, that kind of a leak doesn't make a huge bit of difference, but here leaking out handpicked, chosen pieces of evidence, which the prosecutor can't match, by the way. You can't just have a prosecutor leak out more of the information that's been contained in the indictment or is discussed in open court into the public stream because you're trying to pick a fair jury. So this, if he wants to talk about what's going on in the case, procedurally, sure. The evidence, no, thank you. Unless it's in open court, no, thank you. Can't do it. It messes up the system. When asked about what moment stands out to her the most during her World Cup career, Rapinoe pointed to the equal pay chance that came during the 2019 final. Yeah, I'm no Megan Rapinoe fan, but she did represent the United States on the world stage. I don't understand how you ha-ha their loss. Like, what does it, that just makes you feel good? Like revenge, like, ha-ha, got you, because you suck. I think you're stupid. I don't like your positions and the things that you've said. Ha-ha. Maybe that's okay for you and I, but the president of the United States, the guy that wants to be president, can you imagine what you'd say if Joe Biden did that to any American team anywhere? There'd be pitchforks and torches and stuff. Someone else, the DeSantis is liar person says enough Trump bashing. I don't know what the bashing is. Chris Christie is not a fighter. If he was to fight anybody, it would be standing in front of a mirror. 303-696-1971. Spencer from Minneapolis, or at least that's what the call screen says. Sir, what do you think?
Hey, George. What was life like for you when Trump was in office?
In what way? Which way?
So was life great? I mean, do you kind of analyze presidents as what is the quality of my life while this person is leading?
Yeah, I guess in part I do. I mean, it's hard for me to gauge because half the time I was the DA and then half the time I was in COVID. So, I mean, COVID started under DJT and it sucked, the decisions that were made across the board. And now we're just kind of still trying to climb out of this thing some years later. So it's a tough one. I think things were, when I was the DA, things were really pretty good, I thought.
So, and that's kind of how I view it too. A lot of people I have conversations with, they view it that way too. Life was great. The economy was booming. Policies that were coming into place. I've heard multiple people say that Trump instituted the most conservative policies in the history of Republican presidents. I mean, whatever they say. But life right now under Biden is not good. It's not good. And anyone that says it is, I think they're lying to themselves. And to get hung up on what you don't like about a person because of what they say or how they carry themselves, and then to look at your life and say, well, life is really good right now. Business is booming, but I don't want to vote for this person because I can't stand what comes out of his mouth.
Isn't I don't think it's what comes out of his
cutting
mouth.
your nose off to spite your face.
Yeah, but if it was just what he said or how he said it, that'd be one thing. But I mean, now we're looking at, felony charges for this and that. And I mean, nobody stays loyal to this guy. Everybody turns on this guy. And yet he's the one that continues to pick them. Let me ask you, when you say that things are worse under Biden when compared to Trump, what are the things you're focusing on?
Well, I mean, there's all the talking points, the cost of groceries, the cost of living expenses, the cost of fuel. Inflation, and these are all policy decisions made by the current president that now he's not responsible for everything, but his policy decisions are definitely contributing to these issues. And the policy decisions that Trump made.
Which ones do you think that Biden made that have been the worst for us in terms of those things that you say are the impacts?
A lot of it are his policies in regards to fossil fuels. I mean, I'm sorry, but fossil fuels is what runs this entire world. The cost of shipping. I mean, when you take policies and you make them so that fuel prices increase the way they have, and to ship something from one state to another, increases those prices. It's like, that is, if I were to start someplace, if I was president, I would immediately start trying to reduce the cost of fuel, because that is the one thing that everyone uses to get their products from A to B. Well, I mean, I would have to have more information that these presidents and people, in government know, but I would allow the pipelines to go into place to try to reduce the cost of fuel.
I get that.
Maybe open up a few more refineries so that we can lower the cost of producing fuel, and try to take steps towards alleviating how much it's costing to live right now, because honestly, that's number one in my book.
It's true too. OPEC, and Billy was telling me this in my ear, OPEC's cutting back their production also because they want to drive up the cost. What do you do with that?
Well, I feel like Trump would absolutely be trying to negotiate with foreign countries about this kind of stuff. He did that when
you don't think
he was in
Biden's
office,
doing
and
that?
he made great strides. I think Biden has a green agenda, and his goal is to eliminate fossil fuels. So everything negative that happens is exactly what he wants to occur.
So can I ask you one other question before I let you go? Because I want to get to Gary and the others here. Given that thesis, and that is, hey, if life was better under this person, you just shouldn't care about the rest. Is there anything that this guy could do that would cause you to not vote for him?
Well, absolutely. I mean, I'm realistic. I'm logical. Don't get me wrong. I would regularly cover my face with my hands when Trump would say just ridiculous things, and I don't like that stuff either. But there's just so much about politicians that we can't change and we can't control. And for me, the bellwether is, what is my life like with this person in office? And despite all the negative that Trump has, life was great for me when he was president.
Do the charges and potential convictions and sentences, none of that matters?
No, I think it's very important, and I believe in our justice system, but I also think that the justice system is tainted by politics. And so the question is he going to get a fair trial? Do you think he's going to get a fair trial in D.C.?
No.
So
I really don't think you can
point of
find.
the
I don't
question?
think you can find a fair jury. But I also don't think, just based on, and I think this is what we know is going to happen because this judge has said this in the past, just because 92% of DC voted for Biden instead of Trump doesn't mean de facto there's no way you could find a fair jury. I think you have to go through the voir dire process and figure out whether or not you can find the 12 people who can be fair.
I agree with that. Like I said, if he's convicted, and it goes through appeal and it goes all the way to the Supreme Court, who knows what's going to happen? Yes, there are things Trump could do where he would lose my support. I'm not that kind of person that's just blind trust and loyalty, but I do think that life was better when he was president.
Spencer, man, I appreciate the phone call. Thank you for that analysis. Spencer's line is open at 303-696-1971. Gary from Denver, you're on 710. What do you think, Gary?
Oh, hi, George. I was calling, really, I wanted to talk about whether or not the trials will occur before the election, which the answer for me is no. But on that last point, my life right now is incrementally not as good as when Trump was in, but not significantly worse. And, people go with sound bites. For instance, the price of gasoline is affected, as you said, the Saudis are cutting back production. U.S. companies are cutting back production intentionally to keep the prices high because they're beholden to their shareholders. And by the way, weather-related, the hot weather is shutting down refineries, which cuts off supplies. It's not only Joe Biden's policies, which have contributed, but are not the sole reason for the increase in gas prices.
No, I get that. Tell me about the trial stuff, though, too, in terms of, first off, do you want to see it televised? And do you think that Trump should testify?
I think I would love to see them televised. I don't think the Supreme Court, who's the guy who makes up John Roberts?
Yeah.
Is that his name?
Yeah.
he won't go for it, and that he's gonna be the one who says yay or nay, and I don't think he'll go for it. But I would like to see it televised.
What about the Trump testifying part?
Strategically, I think Trump would be a fool to testify, because a good lawyer will just show him for who he is, and all of the
When's the last time he's listened to a good lawyer?
Yeah, right.
Sounds like he's listened to lawyers before, but they're not very good.
Yeah, I'd love to see him, because they tear him a new one, and I'd love to see it because he has so many contradictory statements.
Well, that's just the thing too, is everything is set up as a me versus you, me versus them thing. I feel like he owes it to us to take the stand and take on Jack Smith and these accusations and deny them and be tested under cross-examination. It just wouldn't be him. It wouldn't be on brand for him to hide behind the Fifth Amendment at his table. And in this case, I think that's what's happening, because there's so much about the case already that happened. Again, I'm not disparaging any other defendant who invokes the Fifth, and he could too. It's his right, but come on.
Well, you saw it, and there's a.
Oh, what did hold on. Billy just reminded me, Gary. What was it that Trump said about people who took the Fifth?
He said that if they take the Fifth, they're obviously criminals. Why wouldn't you testify? Why would you take the Fifth?
Oh, we're gonna have to find
when
that
we're going
clip
through that. There were a number of clips that he was throwing rocks at people involved with Hillary Clinton's campaign, saying, "Look at all these people taking the Fifth. You don't take the Fifth unless you're guilty." He was saying that. So,
man, that's super interesting.
Super interesting, especially given some of the transcripts so far.
Yeah.
Super interesting.
That's interesting, Gary. I'm sorry I cut you off, man.
Well, and but he won't do it because he's going to be under oath. And you saw when he testified in the paying off of the prostitute, where he mistook her for his wife in a picture.
Yeah, who hasn't done that?
Right. Yeah, I've never mistook my wife for a hooker, but
Gary, congrats. I think for both of you to have not had to go down that road. I want to see him testify too, but get to this thing that you were talking about, the whether or not you think there's going to be a trial before the election.
I don't think there will be, because the current New York trial scheduled for March, the Mar-a-Lago is scheduled for May, and that will take at least 2 months, and then you're 2 months before the election. So, but what will be really interesting, and your talk show is going to be really interested when Biden gets reelected, which makes me not nauseous, but he will, because Trump can't win the swing states. Just, he lost the 2020, those states in 2020 and 2022. He's going to lose them again in 24. So Biden's going to be president, and then he's going to be on trial. And that will be very interesting when there's no election, no President Trump, and he's going to be on trial. And I hope he ends up in jail.
Well, Gary, that's really strong, man. Thank you for sharing that with us. Gary's line is open at 303-696-1971. Some text to read, but Billy?
Yeah. This is just a reminder of Donald Trump and his opinions on the Fifth Amendment.
Taking the Fifth Amendment, like you see on the mob, right? You see the mob takes the Fifth. If you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment? Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. Horrible. Horrible. I want the Fifth Amendment. I want immunity. The reason they get immunity is because they did something wrong. If they didn't do anything wrong, they don't think in terms of immunity. Taking the Fifth Amendment, think of this, over and over. And if you're not guilty of a crime, what do you need immunity for, right? Taking the Fifth Amendment, the whole thing, it's a mess. Pled the Fifth. Never, that's the end of him. Ay. He pleaded the Fifth Amendment. Wait, what are we going to do with this guy? What happened? He pleaded the Fifth, right? He pleaded the Fifth. Where is he? This is like a third world country, folks. It's terrible. This is really, we bring it up.
I guess that's it. He is going to testify. You can't say stuff like that and then go back on it. I do see a huge distinction between immunity and pleading the Fifth. Immunity is very different. But the Fifth Amendment stuff, damn, that was strong, man. This is clearly a guy who's going to testify. I'm looking forward to that. That will be must-see TV if we could. That's another reason the cameras have to be in there. Something else. Twin Aspen Dental, my dentist. By the way, at Corey's birthday yesterday, Corey reminded me he is a patient of Twin Aspen Dental. He goes there. He sees Shiloh. He loves it. Richter and Snyder. He's been going there even before there was a doctor, Richter and Snyder. He said it's fantastic. He can't imagine going anyplace else. I could read you all this other stuff that they do about keeping your great smile, making a better smile, the stuff that they do in terms of trying to come up with a way for you. If you don't have dental insurance, they have their own package of things that they can give you for a reasonable price that covers all the things you need to keep a healthy mouth. They do all the heavy lifting in terms of the dental implants, the bridges, all that other stuff. I could tell you all that, but the bottom line is people that use them love them. You want to join that team. Give them a shot. It doesn't cost you anything to take a little time out from your current dental situation and try Twin Aspen Dental. Office located on Stroh Road in Parker, right by Lehman Academy. You can visit them online at twinaspendentalcenter.com, twinaspendentalcenter.com, or call 303-841-7466, 303-841-7466. That's Twin Aspen Dental Center. Got to cut away for a break. Phone line's starting to light up, and we're getting a bunch of texts, and I'll try to get to those as best I can. It's George Brauchler on The George Show, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. I told you about that 8-mile run yesterday. I'm feeling it today. Makes me think this is the day. I pick up the phone and I call our buddies at QC Kinetix at 303-900-8986, and I'll tell you why. They are the ones that fix you using you. No knives, no cutting, no long rehabilitation, no afterwards therapy. It's needle. A needle into your joint. It could be your ankle, your knee, your hips, your lower back, I think even neck. It's called regenerative medicine, and they've kind of figured out a way to do it across the country, and it's such a high level, and they make it easy, stress-free. All you got to do is call their local medical professionals at 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986, and ask them about it. And when they convince you to at least give it a shot, you'll have one more option other than going under the knife, and who wants to do that? Try QCkinetics.com. That's QCkinetics.com. Listen, man, some of these texts that we've been getting, they're just nuts. It seems like every time I talk about Trump and I say anything other than, if he's not the second coming, I don't know who is. Here's one that says, I'd call, but I'm so damn mad right now. I'm turning this off. I said, mad about what? These red-blooded American men. This is what's wrong with Colorado. How pathetic. You get what you deserve. I said, I'm a red-blooded American man. No, you're not. That's what I got in response. Trump's greatest contribution to the country was the addition of 3 conservative Supreme Court appointments. I agree. That's the only protection we have from the extremists on the left. With that said, it's time for a different nominee for the Republicans. I agree with that too. Trump protective order should gag him to keep him out of the news cycle and let other candidates get traction. That won't happen, can't happen. But I do think that there ought to be some limitations on what he can say about this pending case in terms of the evidence. It's if the cost of living in the U.S., and especially Colorado, was lower, my wife and I could maybe afford an electric car and buy more green-friendly products. But libs make everything expensive with anti-state regulations and policies that most middle-class people are stuck just getting by. Agreed. You let Peter and DW and Amanda sway you against DJT. Think about how great he was. Jesus, I don't look at him that way. I look at, we had a decent 4 years, but I've never once thought to myself, what a great man. Not a single moment. I don't get that. A great man can't just be measured by those few policies that were great in putting this. That's fantastic stuff. He should be credited with that. But think about how great he was. The charges are all bogus. Wait and watch. How many of Jack Smith's convictions have been overturned by SCOTUS? I'm switching over to Glenn Beck. No more George. Well, there's going to be plenty more George tomorrow. You can stick around. We'll be back from 6 to 10 a.m. Deb at 3, Stefan at 4. It's me, George Brauchler, on The George Show. Thank you. 710 KNUS.